Chapter 1829. Jian Chen's bottom line. Jian Chen sneered when he heard the elder's words. He stared at the elder as if he was deep in thought and calmly said, "May I ask what this old mister is speaking of exactly by cooperating?" The old man was extremely experienced in life. Naturally, he noticed the faint sarcasm in Jian Chen's voice, but he did not mind at all. He smiled. "It's nothing difficult for you. All you need to do is hand over the high-quality saint artifact, the startling rainbow sword, you just purchased from the True Sword Pavilion. Only that will be enough for you to make up for your mistake of cutting off the young master's arm. Of course, I understand that you've paid quite a hefty price to buy the saint artifact. However, you have to understand just who you've offended this time. It's the young master of the Yang family. As a powerful clan within the divine kingdom of Ping, the Yang family naturally places much emphasis on their pride. As a matter of fact, they cannot allow any provocation to happen at all, and your actions today have gone far beyond mere provocation. If this matter isn't handled correctly, you'll become an enemy of the Yang family. Not only will you struggle to escape from the royal capital, but even the clan behind you will be dragged into the matter. Let alone the fact that no one dares to provoke the Yang family in the divine kingdom. We're famed even across the neighboring divine kingdoms." The old man smiled. As soon as he mentioned the possibility of becoming an enemy of the Yang family, he felt like victory was already in reach. He believed Jian Chen was done for. The Yang family really did possess such prestige and power. And this was all because of their late over-god ancestor, Yang Kai. I never thought that the glorious Yang family of the divine kingdom of Ping would do something like this. But do you really think I would just hand over the sword I spent 6 million high-grade divine crystals to purchase? Jian Chen asked. The old man smiled confidently, and his tone gradually became forceful as well. "Brother, you've offended the Yang family, so you must hand over the sword. Otherwise, the Yang family will not let you leave the city." Elder Ma is right. "Sir, it's best if you hand over the startling rainbow sword. We'll be able to guarantee you that the Yang family won't look into the matter of the young master's severed arm. Otherwise, we'll just have to make it difficult for you and make you come with us to the Yang family," a second elder spoke out. He was also an old man, and he looked at Jian Chen with hostility. "High-quality saint artifacts are precious, but if you can't even keep your life intact, is there still any use for such a great weapon? Brother, you better think it through. After all, the Yang family is not to be trifled with. Even if you don't care for your life, you have to think about your clan. If you happen to anger the Yang family, and they directly wipe out your clan, it'll be horrible," the scholarly, middle-aged man chimed in as well. He smiled and spoke calmly. However, there was a sense of coldness present in his voice. Only the last elder from the Yang family remained silent. He was the one who had followed Yang Kai to the True Sword Pavilion and tried to persuade him otherwise. His old eyes always remained fixed on Jian Chen. He felt that the person before him was nowhere as simple as the other elders believed him to be. "Wipe out my clan?" Jian Chen murmured, and his face gradually sank. Killing intent began to seep out from his eyes, and he did not make any effort to conceal it at all. If the three elders had only threatened Jian Chen himself, he would have never reacted so violently. However, they never, ever should have threatened his clan. Not only were members of his family in his clan, but there were also his friends that he had gone through life and death with. They were Jian Chen's soft spot, as well as a bottom line that could not be crossed. Sensing the icy cold killing intent from Jian Chen, the four elders in the room looked at each other, and they all became extremely stern. The killing intent had actually made them shiver. Through the killing intent, the four of them gained a rough understanding of Jian Chen's strength. He was definitely more powerful than any single one of them. At this moment, Jian Chen moved. The bed that he sat on shook gently, while he had already become a faint blur. He appeared before the scholarly, middle-aged man with unbelievable speed and directly grabbed his throat in a death grip. Only after sensing his throat being gripped tightly did the man see Jian Chen appear before him. His eyes widened dramatically while disbelief flooded his eyes. His heart churned. With his strength as a god, he was actually unable to put up a struggle against Jian Chen at all. He did not even see Jian Chen move. All he felt was that in a single instance, his throat had ended up in Jian Chen's grip. Who is this? Even I failed to sense anything when he moved. Even late gods can't achieve this. Is he an overgod? How is that possible? How can he be an overgod? The middle-aged man was utterly terrified. You dare to threaten to end my clan? Let alone you, a god, even if your ancestor, Yang Kai, was standing before me, I would never let the matter slide. Jian Chen glared at the middle-aged man as he forced out each word before directly smacking the man's head with his hand. The clan was Jian Chen's bottom line. It was an existence that could not be touched. Even though he was not interested in becoming an enemy of the Yang family before, he needed to kill this person now because of how he had spoken. Bang! The middle-aged man's head directly shattered into pieces from Jian Chen's attack, and his soul was wiped out. Jian Chen released his hand from the man's throat and allowed him to collapse onto the ground. Afterwards, he turned his head towards the three other elders as if nothing had happened at all. He said emotionlessly, "Now, not only have I severed the young master's arm, but I've killed an elder of your Yang family. What are you going to do?" Chapter 1830, Guards of the Royal Capital. The three other elders collectively paled. They stared at Jian Chen in complete fear and disbelief as they staggered backwards uncontrollably. Jian Chen had moved far too quickly. Not only was he quick, but he had slain a god so easily as well. From just a single clash, an elder who was roughly as strong as them had died just like that before them. Let alone fighting back, he failed to even put up a struggle. He was truly as weak as an ant. The three remaining elders of the Yang family were not exactly stupid. Jian Chen was definitely not a god since he could kill someone around the same strength as them in such a quick manner. Even late gods would not be able to kill one of their companions so easily in front of the three of them. They would have plenty of time to interfere and save them. Why, you're an overgod. An elder stared at Jian Chen in terror as he said with a trembling voice. At that moment, he could only be described as drowned in fear. There was also some disbelief on his face. Although they had never seen all the overgods in the surrounding divine kingdoms, they had heard a few rumors about each person at the very least, so they naturally possessed some information about the nearby overgods. Although they would not be able to identify who the overgod was with a single glance, they could deduct their identity through various traces and unique characteristics. However, they failed to find anything that matched with an overgod they knew from Jian Chen. It's no longer important whether I'm a god or an overgod. What is important is that I've killed an elder of your Yang family. Moreover, I clearly heard you mention that the Yang family was a very prideful clan, so haven't I basically slapped the Yang family in the face? How does the Yang family plan on redeeming themselves? Do you still plan on getting me to hand over my newly purchased sword, or do you plan on making me stay here forever? Jian Chen sneered. He no longer had any positive impressions towards the Yang family after all that had happened. Although this was all caused by the elders acting on their own accord and was not really related to Yang Kai, the behavior of his clansmen was more than enough to let Jian Chen understand how Yang Kai was like as a person. If Yang Kai was a righteous person, his clansmen would never do something like this under his influence. No. Senior, this is all a misunderstanding. A complete misunderstanding. We didn't know that it was Senior who had paid a visit to the royal capital, so if we've offended you, we hope that Senior can be the bigger man and forgive the reckless actions of us juniors. We were ignorant and failed to recognize Senior. Yeah. It's all a misunderstanding. We hope that Senior can be the bigger person and spare us juniors. Elder Lu had it coming, which was why he died. It's no one else's fault. Our Yang family would never stand up for someone like him. The three remaining elders all shivered inside as they stared at Jian Chen's murderous gaze. They immediately lowered themselves and begged for mercy in fear. They seemed to be extremely sincere. They were unable to control whether the Yang family would look for trouble due to the death of an elder, nor could they interfere with the matter. However, they did know that they would probably end up just like Elder Lu if they did not act like this right now. The matter at hand was saving their own lives first. Jian Chen glared at the three elders. He said nothing as he sank into his thoughts. The three elders fell into utter silence as Jian Chen pondered. They even stifled their breaths. They stood there obediently, not daring to act recklessly. They understood that everything they did before an over-god would be futile. It would not be able to evade their senses. Right now, they could only hope that the over-god feared the ancestor of the Yang family and was not willing to fall out with the Yang family completely. A while later, Jian Chen kicked Elder Lu's corpse suddenly. He said, "I'll spare your lives today. Piss off with your companion's body." "Thank you, Senior." Spared, the three elders caught the corpse and flew out the window as if they had just avoided death. They moved as quickly as possible. With just a flash, all three of them had vanished. It was very difficult to see them moving about in the streets below. At the same time, the Yang family people who had surrounded the inn below received secret messages from the three elders. They all dispersed the encirclement with some confusion and surprise, leaving with the disheveled young master who was missing an arm. All the people of the Yang family had retreated. They're going? The people of the Yang family are just going like this? It's impossible for the matter to just end like this, right? It's impossible. The Yang family is one of the most powerful clans in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Any person who offends them will always suffer in the end. I think I saw people fly out of the window earlier. It was just that they moved too quickly, so I failed to see it clearly. Has the person who injured the young master already been taken away by the elders? That's very likely. That person probably will suffer from the consequences of offending the Yang family. Sigh, looks like that is another soul lost from this world. The cultivators who had gathered on the streets all sighed emotionally. Many of them showed much sympathy, as well as anger and deep helplessness. At this moment, there was actually no one who took joy in the matter, surprisingly. Clearly, the Yang family was not well respected by many people even though they were one of the most powerful clans in the kingdom. The guards are coming. Everyone give way. At this moment, a call rang out, and the expressions of all the cultivators present immediately changed. Without any hesitation, they stepped to one side and formed a path without any further instruction. A group of armored soldiers on a magical beast rushed over from the distance. Their faces were all cold, and their gazes were sharp. Who has been causing trouble here? The captain of the guards gazed around and said heavily. Sir, the young master of the Yang family brought a few elders from the Yang family to take someone away. A young man in the crowd reported everything he knew with a smile. However, when the captain heard that Yang Tai's arm had been chopped off by someone, his face changed immediately. He said furiously, "What did you say?" Yang Tai's arm was chopped off. By who? Who is bold enough to commit such heinous deeds in the royal capital? The guard was extremely furious, as one of Yang Tai's female cousins was his wife. Sir, the people of the Yang family have already retreated. They've probably captured the person already, the young man said carefully. Humph. Even if he has been taken away, I won't forgive him. Come, let's look into the matter and see if we can deduce his identity and background from any remaining traces, the captain said coldly. With a wave of his hand, he immediately brought some of his trusted subordinates into the inn. Jian Chen remained in the same room. As the room's defensive formation had not been reactivated, the captain directly barged through the door in a reckless and brutal manner. However, as soon as the captain entered the room and was about to look for any traces left behind, he was stunned. Soon afterwards, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes, and he stared at a man in white clothes who stood before the window with his back towards him. Who are you? The captain demanded. I'm that person bold enough to commit such heinous deeds in the royal capital. Jian Chen stared outside as he said calmly. Chapter 1831, The Royal Divine Army Mobilized. What? That person is you? Doesn't that mean that you also cut off Yang Tai's arm? The captain stared at Jian Chen in shock. Disbelief flooded his face as he was completely taken aback. Did the elders of the Yang family not take away the person who offended the Yang family and cut off Yang Tai's arm? How could he still be here? Even if the elders of the Yang family did not take away the person who had chopped off Yang Tai's arm yet, just where had the elders run off to? Why did they leave the person behind and return all by themselves? Even if he ignored just how unbelievable the outcome was, it was impossible for the Yang family to do such an embarrassing thing with their strength and prestige. If the matter made it out to the public, the Yang family's status would probably plummet in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. It could even affect their status in the surrounding divine kingdoms. As a captain of the guards for the royal capital, you should enforce the laws impartially. Shouldn't you at least ask about how everything happened in the first place after getting here and not focus on Yang Tai's arm? Don't tell me that as a captain of the guards, you're connected to the Yang family, and you want to take advantage of your position so things work in the Yang family's favor? Chen said calmly. He had not shifted his gaze from beyond the window. He stared in the direction of the royal palace of the kingdom. Just then, he had discovered someone sending over the senses of their soul in an extremely well-hidden manner. Although the senses had been purposefully concealed, Chen still discovered it. He only found it to be extremely unclear and hazy. Clearly, his current strength was not enough to clearly pinpoint where it had settled. However, even though he had only captured it vaguely, Chen could feel a mountainous pressure from it. Even with his current strength, he could not help but shiver. God King, Chen thought. The God Kings of the Divine Kingdom had already begun paying attention to here. The Divine Kingdom of Pingtian has 2 God Kings. I wonder if the senses of the soul I just discovered belongs to the Divine King His Majesty or the Grand Imperial Protector, Chen wondered. The Divine King reached God King many years ago. It said that before the Divine Kingdom had even been founded, the Divine King Pingtian was already a God King. He personally led his subordinates to create this Divine Kingdom. Now that the Divine Kingdom has already existed for several hundreds of thousands of years, the Divine King must have made quite a lot of progress compared to before. On the other hand, the Grand Imperial Protector has only reached God King recently. It's said that he only broke through a little over 100,000 years ago. The Divine King's strength must be greater than the Grand Imperial Protector. I won't be able to sense the Divine King's senses of the soul as a result, so it should have been the Grand Imperial Protectors. Chen stood before the window with his back towards the captain of the guards. He gazed in the direction of the royal palace as he pondered deeply. He completely did not notice that the captain's face had become abnormally ugly when he mentioned that the captain might be abusing his position. His face basically sunk completely and killing intent filled his eyes. The laws within the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian were particularly strict. As a captain of the guards, he was loyal to the Divine King, but he still helped the Yang family do many things in secret. As a result, the thing he feared the most was other people mentioning that he was abusing his position of power. Clearly, Chen's words had completely infuriated the captain. I will naturally find out exactly what transpired. However, there's no hope denying that you cut off Yang Tai's arm. You dare commit crimes so openly in the royal capital. Humph. Come, take him away, the captain said coldly. Yes, Captain, immediately, a few guards charged into the room to take Chen away. At this moment, a thunderous series of galloping sounds rang out, causing the ground to tremble gently. What is happening? The captain and his guards all looked at each other from the sudden disruption. The guards who wanted to take Chen away stopped as they became uncertain. The disruption was simply far too great, and it was like an entire army was moving about. The earth seemed to be shaking from the deafening gallops. 2 of you stay here to watch over him. The others, come with me to see what's happening, the guard said coldly. He immediately stopped paying any more attention to Chen and left with his trusted subordinates. However, when the captain left the inn and saw what was happening in the distance, he became completely stunned. In the distance, a squad of elite, armored soldiers shot over. They moved extremely quickly as if they were lightning. From the distance, they seemed to have been reduced to a string of blurs. The soldiers were all actually at godhood. The mounts beneath them were 3 flamed divine horses that burned with red flames. 3 flamed divine horses were relatively common beasts in the saints' world. They seemed like horses, but they were 3 times larger and were naturally accompanied by flames. They were called 3-flamed, because the flames of the mount could change 3 times in a single lifetime. Newly born, they would possess strength at sainthood, and their flames would be scarlet. Once they reached adulthood, their strength would be on par with deities, and their flames would become blood-red. If they were nurtured with a vast quantity of heavenly resources, the horses could even become gods. Once they became gods, their flames would burn a deep violet. That would be the final stage of cultivation for the horses. Throughout history, there had never been a 3-flamed divine horse that had reached over God. However, these divine horses would become the mounts of the very best due to their strength. Once they were tamed, they would remain loyal for the rest of their lives, and they were naturally skilled at teamwork. The horses beneath these soldiers all possessed blood-red flames. Clearly, they had all reached adulthood, and they possessed the battle prowess of a deity. It's the Royal Divine Army. Oh my God, it's actually the Royal Divine Army. Am I dreaming? The Royal Divine Army has actually come. Looking at the direction they're heading in, the Royal Divine Army seem to be going to the Perched Phoenix Inn. Has something happened there, which is why they're going that way? The conflicts within the royal capital have always been handled by the regular guards. Why would the Royal Divine Army deal with these miscellaneous matters? They are lofty existences, and they are the strongest and most terrifying army of the entire divine kingdom. They're known to be the protector gods of the kingdom. On the streets, countless people watched on. All of their eyes were filled with respect and quite a few of them were filled with eagerness. The Royal Divine Army was a group of soldiers that was almost divine in the divine kingdom of Ping. They possessed crushing strength. In the entire region, there were no armies from any divine kingdom that could match up to the Royal Divine Army. Why has the Royal Divine Army come? The captain of the guards watched everything unfold in disbelief. The Royal Divine Army was rarely ever mobilized. Chapter 1832, 10,000-man Commander Peng, the captain of the guards, watched as the Royal Divine Army galloped towards him in a stunning manner as he directly pondered to himself, the army seems to be heading for the inn. Strange, why has the Royal Divine Army suddenly shown up here when they're rarely mobilized at all? Has the matter of Yang Tai's severed arm alarmed the Royal Divine Army? And before, I clearly heard that there were a few elders from the Yang family who came here. It's impossible for them to allow something like this to happen with the Yang family's pride and strength, yet they actually left quietly in the end. They did not even bother with the person who offended them. Looks like the Yang family retreated because they received the news that the Royal Divine Army was coming. That's why the person who chopped off Yang Tai's arm is completely fine. The captain could not help but nod to himself secretly when he thought up to there. He found his thoughts to be more and more believable. The real reason why the Yang family had retreated was very likely due to the fact that they learnt that the Royal Divine Army was coming to take away the person instead, so they decided to not get in their way. Although the Yang family was one of the most powerful clans in the Divine Kingdom, they were nowhere near close to reigning supreme in the royal capital. Although there were basically no clans who dared to stand up to the Yang family, the Royal Divine Army was an exception. Even when ignoring the fact that the person behind the army was the Divine King, just the strength of the army by itself was no weaker than the Yang family. At the same time, the Royal Divine Army also possessed a late over god as their commander. If someone asked whether there was anyone who could stand up to the Yang family in the Divine Kingdom of Ping, the Royal Divine Army would definitely be one of the answers. However, the captain of the guards shook his head again after some thought. No, the Royal Divine Army and the Yang family have no connections at all. Why would they stand up for the Yang family just because the young master's arm was cut off? What is this all about? Is this really not as complicated as I imagined it to be, and the Royal Divine Army is just passing by? The gallops of the horses rang louder and louder, clearer and clearer up ahead. Clearly, only around 100 people had come, but it created the same disturbance as an entire army of soldiers. Most importantly, all their movements were completely in sync. As a result, every time the hooves of the horses struck the ground, it was thunderous, causing the ground to shake. The group of soldiers from the Royal Divine Army rapidly approached the inn under the gazes of everyone. everyone on the street stuck close to the buildings. All of them had even stepped aside to broaden the path without any warning so that the Royal Divine Army could pass through. Even the captain of the guards stood to one side obediently. He could put on airs normally, but before the Royal Divine Army, he could only stand down obediently. He was no longer bold enough to order people around. The Royal Divine Guards were on a whole different level compared to his guards. However, just when the captain of the guards believed that the Royal Divine Army was simply passing by, the entire squadron unexpectedly pulled on their reins in a single motion together. All the 3 flamed divine horses immediately raised their front legs. Coupled with a deafening screech, their hooves struck the ground heavily, producing a thunder-like boom. Immediately, a shockwave visible to the naked eye rapidly expanded in all directions due to the hooves. It shook up all the bystanders, making them stagger. Many of them even lost their footing and fell over. If it were not for the fact that the ground and the entire city was enveloped and protected by a powerful formation, just the stamp from the horses would have been enough to reduce the surrounding structures to ruins. After all, there were over 100 adult 3-flamed divine horses, which was equivalent to over 100 deities. Rourou, the same person that Chen had seen in the True Sword Pavilion, currently stood with a few guards in the crowd. She stared at the squadron of 3-flamed divine horses that stood in a neat formation outside the perched phoenix inn in doubt. Strange. Why has the Royal Divine Army come? Rourou wondered softly. Young miss, I heard that Yang Tai's arm was cut off by someone in the perched phoenix inn. Maybe the Royal Divine Army came for that? A guard said from behind Rourou. Her voice was crisp and pleasant, making it very evident that she was female. It was easy to assume that her appearance would match her voice. Moreover, looking at the statures of the other guards, they all seemed feminine as well. Young miss, in my opinion, the person who cut off Yang Tai's arm seems to be the young man who purchased the startling rainbow sword in the True Sword Pavilion. However, isn't he just a little too bold? He has offended the Yang family, added another guard. Young miss, the young man certainly did act rather viciously, but he also possesses a sense of righteousness. I am not powerful, but I have seen countless people in the world. If I am correct, that young man should be an honorable person, or he would not possess such a bearing. Young miss, let's help this person out. After all, it was all caused by Yang Tai, said another guard. She seemed to be pleading Rourou. Rourou remained silent. She just stared at the inn. The person at the very front of the squadron from the Royal Divine Army dismounted. He was wearing deep red armor. He said to the people behind him, 1,000-man Commander Lu, 1,000-man Commander Cho, come with me. The rest of you remain in position. Yes, sir. The squadron replied. Listening to the familiar voice of the squadron captain, the eyes of the captain of the guards immediately widened. Disbelief filled his eyes as he thought, isn't that Sir 10,000-man Commander Peng's voice? How is that possible? Sir 10,000-man Commander Peng has personally come and there are 2,000-man commanders as well. Why has Sir 10,000-man Commander come with 2,000-man commanders? Although very shocked and doubtful, the captain of the guards dared not to tarry. He immediately ran up like a suck-up and arrived before 10,000-man Commander Peng, who was covered in armor apart from his 2 eyes. The captain of the guards smiled as he fawned over 10,000-man Commander Peng, lowering himself very much and speaking extremely politely. He knew extremely well that although he was the captain of a squadron of guards in the royal capital, it was nothing before a 10,000-man commander of the Royal Divine Guards. Not to mention that the 10,000-man commander of all people was 10,000-man Commander Peng. However, 10,000-man Commander Peng paid no attention to the captain of the guards. After glancing coldly at him, he entered the perched phoenix inn with his 2,000-man commanders. The captain did not become angered at all. He smiled resplendently as he glanced at the remaining squadron of the Royal Divine Army with eagerness and envy. Afterwards, he ran off behind 10,000-man Commander Peng again. Young miss, the Royal Divine Army has already gone in to capture the person, and it seems like the person leading the squadron is 10,000-man Commander Peng. He's known to be the strongest beneath over God in the entire Divine Kingdom. There are even rumors that 10,000-man Commander Peng has the right to make it onto the god's pedestal. It's impossible for that person to be his enemy. The guard who had asked Rourou to save Chen before spoke out again. Young miss, why don't we help him out? I don't think he's a bad person either. Moreover, we were slightly mistaken about him in the True Sword Pavilion as well. We thought that he had only mentioned that he wanted to buy a supreme quality saint artifact or a high quality saint artifact to attract your attention, but we never thought he would actually buy one, added another guard. She also seemed to be reluctant about Chen getting taken away by the Royal Divine Army. Once he was taken away by the Royal Divine Army, he would suffer even if he came from an organization that possessed an overgod. Under the persuasion of the guards, Rourou finally let out a sigh and said, "All right, let's go in and have a look." Chapter 1833, Rourou made her way towards the inn gently. She moved at a steady pace while her guards all followed behind her closely. There were 2 armored members of the Royal Divine Army guarding the entrance to the Perched Phoenix Inn right now. They stood straight like statues without moving at all. Only their eyes were revealed, which shone with a cold and merciless light as they observed the surroundings. Clearly, they were there to prevent anyone from entering. The guards under the captain had stood to one side long ago. Rourou directly made her way towards the entrance of the inn with her guards. Even though there were 2 soldiers at the entrance, she did not show any signs of hesitation in her steps at all. She was completely at ease. Just as Rourou was about to enter the inn, the 2 soldiers did not do anything to stop her. Instead, they bowed at the same time and said to Rourou together, "Greetings, young miss." The jaws of everyone in the surroundings immediately dropped at the sight of this. All of their eyes became filled with shock and disbelief towards Rourou, leading to quite a large disturbance. They all soon began to guess at Rourou's identity when they saw how the Royal Divine Army showed so much respect towards her. Clearly, Rourou was already used to the polite treatment she received from the 2 soldiers. She did not find it strange at all. She nodded at the 2 of them calmly and did not halt her steps at all. She directly entered the inn. At the same time, Chen resided on the very top floor of the inn. He remained by the window as he gazed out. He seemed to be deep in thought. Behind him, 10,000-man Commander Peng and his 2,000-man commanders had already arrived in the room. When the 10,000-man commander saw Chen's back, he immediately clasped his fist towards Chen without any hesitation and said loudly, "10,000-man Commander Peng of the 7th Regiment of the Royal Divine Army greets the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. 1,000-man Commander Zhang of the 7th Regiment of the Royal Divine Army greets the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. 1,000-man Commander Li of the 7th Regiment of the Royal Divine Army greets the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan." At the same time, the 2,000-man commanders behind 10,000-man Commander Peng clasped their hands towards Chen. They looked at Chen with much respect. This was the respect towards strength. The 3 of them were only gods. In their eyes, overgods were indomitable existences. Moreover, the overgod standing before them was not like any other overgod. Instead, he possessed a crushing advantage in power. He was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan who defeated the overgod of the Weiner clan, someone that had comprehended the laws of strength. He was Chen. Chen turned his head towards the 3 soldiers covered in armor and asked, "Did Xian Do send you here? Are you really that certain that I'm the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? What if you recognized the wrong person? Wouldn't it become a huge joke if that happened? It was Commander Xian Do who sent us. Before we came, the commander showed us images of the patriarch, which is why we recognize you," said Commander Peng Fei. Chen nodded. Just when he was about to say something, the door to the room suddenly opened once again. The captain of the guards entered from outside. Clearly, he did not sense the special atmosphere in the room, nor did hear what had just been said earlier. As soon as he saw Chen, coldness filled his eyes. He pointed at Chen and said, "Commander Peng, it's him. He was the one who committed crimes in the royal capital. Not only does he look down on the laws, but he's extremely audacious as well. If you let him go, who knows how many more heinous crimes he will commit. Please take him away for arrest, Commander Peng. Jian Chen smiled when he heard that. He looked at the captain and Commander Peng in interest without saying anything at all. However, when Commander Peng heard the captain's words, his gaze changed slightly. If his covered face was visible at that moment, it would be evident that his face had already darkened, having become extremely sunken. The person before them was the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, the same person who easily defeated Weiner Yan, who had comprehended the laws of strength several dozen years ago. Not to mention that there were rumors recently that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had broken through once again in God King Duanmu's dwelling. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan was someone that even their superior, Xian Do, had to treat politely. Xian Do had even ordered them to receive the patriarch warmly, yet the captain of the guards had demanded his arrest as soon as he showed up. Was he not trying to go against everything that the commanders were trying to carry out? Right now, Peng Fei was tempted to swat the captain to death in a single stroke. Even if you want to take people away, you should find out everything about the matter before taking action. At this moment, Rourou entered the room with her guards as well. Clearly, she had heard the captain's words. She said all that as soon as she had entered the room. "Young miss, why have you come as well?" Peng Fei was rather surprised as he stared at Rourou and said politely. Rourou glanced at the guards behind her and a sliver of helplessness appeared on her face. She said, "The girls can't bear an innocent person being framed, which is why I came specially to have a look." Rourou paused after reaching this point. She glanced at Jian Chen and said, 10,000-man Commander Peng, according to my knowledge, the entire matter was instigated by Yang Tai. As a result, I hope that Commander Peng can look through all the facts before making an arrest. I won't allow you to take away the innocent. Arrest? Young miss, aren't you? Commander Peng stared at Rourou. He was clueless as to how to respond. He only grumbled indignantly inside, "My young miss, the person before you is the famed patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. Just what position have you forced me into by saying that I would arrest people right before him? Moreover, even if I really wanted to arrest him, I'm nowhere near his opponent as a god. At the very least, we would need an overgod like Commander Xian Do to come personally." Rourou could not help but become slightly confused when she saw how Commander Peng responded. Something did seem slightly off. "Commander Peng, are there any problems?" Rourou asked. The captain also looked at Commander Peng. He also sensed that something was off. Jian Chen's interest was piqued as he watched everything unfold like a cliché drama. He smiled at the people in the room. Suddenly, Commander Peng clasped his fist towards Jian Chen. He said apologetically, "Patriarch, this is the first young lady of our commander, Xian Rourou. The young miss did not know the patriarch's identity, so I hope the patriarch can forgive her if she has offended you in any way." The captain immediately became stunned when he saw the commander's actions. Disbelief filled his face. He was a mighty 10,000-man commander of the Royal Divine Army, not to mention the fact that he was the famed 10,000-man commander, Peng Fei, yet he was actually apologizing to the young man. Moreover, the reason for his apology was how their young lady had spoken. Just how great was the first young lady of the commander's estate? With her status in the army, very few overgods would ever truly pursue the matter even if she disrespected a few regular overgods. However, Commander Peng was actually personally apologizing to the young man before him due to some minor things raised by Xian Rourou. Just who was this young man? Patriarch? Patriarch? Just which patriarch in our divine kingdom of Pingtian possesses such power? There aren't any. Let alone our divine kingdom, there are no patriarchs as powerful as him even in our neighboring divine kingdoms because the patriarchs of clans with overgods are always gods or even other deities. However, even when facing the patriarch of the Yang family, Commander Peng would still talk without going out of his way to be respectful. He would not show any fear, let alone lower himself like this. Unless he's from the Dong'an province, no, impossible. The captain guessed. Finally, he seemed to think of who this person was, and his face immediately paled. Xian Rourou was also slightly taken aback by Commander Peng's apology. However, she also seemed to realize something soon afterwards. A strange light immediately filled her eyes as she stared at Chen. She almost cried out, "You're the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province?" According to Rourou's understanding, only the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan could be referred to as patriarch and make Commander Peng act with so much caution. Overgods were basically all ancestors in clans. They would stand back while the position of patriarch would be occupied by someone else. Only the Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province possessed an extremely powerful overgod as a patriarch. Chapter 1834, The Commander's Estate. "Young miss, you're right. This is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan," said Commander Peng. As soon as he thought about how their young lady had spoken to Chen so eagerly without even knowing his identity, 10,000-man Commander Peng could only smile bitterly inside. Their young lady was normally rather clever, but why had she suddenly lost her touch? Did she not realize from the response and actions of the Royal Divine Army that they had not come to arrest someone? Rourou immediately became stunned after confirming Chen's identity. She stared in disbelief at Chen's young face that was filled with a sense of righteousness. She had already considered that Chen possessed an extraordinary background, where it was extremely likely that he came from an organization with an overgod. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to possess so many high-grade divine crystals to take out for a high-quality saint artifact. However, she had never considered that the person who had said that they wanted to buy a supreme-quality saint artifact and had even been mistaken by people as someone who was just trying to attract her attention would be the famous, almost legendary patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Chen. For a moment, even Rourou found it rather unbelievable for such a great change in status to occur. The jaws of the guards around Rourou dropped at that moment as well. Disbelief was plastered across their faces. Compared to Rourou and everyone else's shock, the captain of the guards felt like he had just entered hell. Not only did his entire body tremble violently, but even his legs shook. "I'm done for. I'm done for. How is this person the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? Yang Tai, of all the people you could provoke, you just had to provoke the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. You've doomed me," the captain sobbed inside. At the same time, he had already become pale. He was the captain of a group of guards in the royal capital, but the royal capital was so big. There were naturally many guards as a result, as well as countless captains like him in the city. Although he worked for the government, his status was nothing special. No one would be able to save him once he offended an overgod. Even if an organization with an overgod stood behind him, very few overgods would step forwards to speak for him. After all, purposefully offending an overgod was completely different from suffering unwanted harassment from an overgod. Suddenly, the captain of the guards dropped to his knees and constantly lowered his head towards Chen. As his forehead smacked against the floor, there was a constant banging sound. He did not use origin energy to protect himself. As such, after just a few times, his forehead had become all bloodied. "Patriarch, this one has been ignorant." This one did not know that the patriarch had come to the royal capital personally. The captain's attitude changed drastically. He constantly bowed his head as he asked for forgiveness in guilt. Even with the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian in perspective, there were only a little over a dozen overgods. Every single one of them possessed a significant status in the divine kingdom. He understood exactly what offending an expert like that entailed. Although he had a connection to the Yang family because he had married one of Yang Tai's female cousins, his wife also possessed no status in the Yang family. The Yang family would never step forwards to speak for him. Commander Peng stared at the captain coldly. There was no sympathy in his eyes at all. He turned towards Chen and asked, "Patriarch, how do you want to deal with this person?" Chen shrugged. He looked at the captain who had a bloodied forehead and sighed gently, "You can go. However, as the captain of a squadron of guards, I hope that you can carry out your duties seriously. Do not get your personal interests involved." Spared, the captain left the place as if he was fleeing for his life after thanking Chen. "Patriarch, the commander, Commander Xian, has invited you to visit his estate. I was wondering if the patriarch would be willing, 10,000-man Commander Peng said with clasped hands. I just happen to be wanting to visit Commander Xian. However, it'll just attract too much attention if I go with your soldiers. You can go back first. I'll visit the commander's estate afterwards by myself, said Chen. Yes, sir. 10,000-man Commander Peng clasped his hands at Chen before leaving with his 2,000-man commanders. Rourou naturally did not stay behind after Commander Peng departed. She immediately bid farewell to Chen extremely politely. In the blink of an eye, the room where Chen stayed was emptied out once again. There were only bloody marks left on the ground as evidence for everything that had just happened. Chen glanced at the bloody patches on the ground and sighed gently. I never thought all of this would happen. Looks like the royal capital isn't as perfect as I believed it to be. The rules of the royal capital affect ordinary cultivators, but it does not affect people from those powerful organizations and clans. After sighing, Chen leapt out the window. He turned into a faint blur as he shot off into the distance. He moved like the wind, where the cultivators on the streets below failed to notice him at all. There were a total of 5 commanders' estates in the royal capital. They were located in the north, south, east, west, and center. The commanders' estates that lay in the 4 cardinal directions belonged to commanders who guarded the territory of the Divine Kingdom. They remained near the edge of the kingdom most of the time and rarely returned to the royal capital. The central estate belonged to Commander Xian. Not only was Xian a late over god, but he was also the commander of the Royal Divine Army. He was the person in control of the strongest army in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. In terms of status, he was one that was only surpassed by few. However, Xian always kept a low profile and rarely showed off. As a result, his prestige within the Divine Kingdom was below the Yang families. After leaving the inn, Chen directly made his way towards the central commander's estate. Even though the royal capital was extremely large, he only used a short while to arrive before the main entrance with his speed. Ha ha ha, brother Chen, you've finally come. Looks like my estate is just a little too small. I've waited several decades for you, and you've finally come. At this moment, Xian emerged from within and laughed aloud. At the moment, he was wearing simple clothes. I wanted to visit Commander Xian much earlier, but I've always remained in cultivation. I've only emerged recently. Chen clasped his hands towards Xian before being invited into the estate warmly. Chen and Xian conversed easily in a guest room of the estate. They went from talking about personal experiences in cultivation and comprehension to various affairs that were happening in the saint's world. They spoke for around 30 hours straight before they showed some signs of stopping. Oh right. Commander Xian, I have something I'd like to ask you about. Suddenly, Chen stopped smiling. What is it, brother Chen? Go on ahead, there's no need to be so polite, Xian said happily. Chen stood up. With a wave of his hand, he removed a crystal casket from the Bright Moon Divine Hall and placed it onto the ground gently. Chapter 1835. The method to save Kaya. On the crystal casket quietly lied a fist-sized beast. It seemed like a winged ant, and it shone with red, orange, and yellow. At the same time, its clever eyes stared at the nearby Xian, indicating much caution. This little beast has already become a god, yet it still can't assume a human form. Xian was surprised when he saw the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast. The 7-colored heaven-devouring beast had no problems in understanding Xian. It immediately raised its head up high, showing much disdain towards Xian. You're actually looking down on me, Xian could not but smile. This was the first time in his life that he, the commander of the Royal Divine Army and a late over god, was actually looked down upon by a little beast that was only a god. Chen looked away from the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast and looked towards Kaya, who laid in the crystal casket. He said, Commander Xian, this is a friend of mine. She was heavily injured in the past and fell unconscious as a result. However, I've healed all her physical injuries many years ago, and I even used heavenly resources that specialized in healing the soul on her. However, she has never even stirred. Do you know any way to make my friend recover? Only after hearing that did Xian Dou look away from the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast. He stared at the crystal coffin where Kaya resided with much interest. Due to the huge disparity in strength, he was able to inspect Kaya's body completely without even opening the casket. The situation immediately made him frown. After a moment of silence, Xian Dou said, "Jian Chen, your friend is not injured at all. At the same time, her life force is plentiful, so that hasn't been touched at all. As a result, it's possible to conclude that the reason for her unconsciousness has nothing to do with her body. There must be other reasons for it." "Oh right, how long has your friend been unconscious for?" Xian Dou looked at Jian Chen. "Almost 100 years, said Jian Chen. 100 years, Xian Dou furrowed his brows deeply. He paced around the crystal casket with crossed arms as his eyes shone. He stared at the unconscious Kaya as he sank into his thoughts. A while later, he said slowly, "If she hasn't woken up after close to 100 years and her physical condition is perfect, it must be due to her soul. I guessed it had to do with the soul as well, but I was unable to find any problems with it at all. I've used heavenly resources for her soul as well, but they've failed to produce any effect at all." Jian Chen sighed gently. He felt helpless. He had concluded that Kaya's problem laid in her soul long ago. However, since it was a problem with her soul, a single droplet of sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo should have been more than enough for her to recover, provided her soul remained intact. He himself had used the sap in the past before, so he understood exactly just how potent it was. And since a single droplet did not work, he had tried multiple droplets as well, but it was still useless. In his eyes, Kaya was a saint emperor. She was nowhere near the origin realm. As such, let alone a droplet, but even half a droplet or less than that would have been almost enough to pull her back from the dead. Of course, there was another possibility, which was that the sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo was nowhere near enough to awaken Kaya. However, Jian Chen never considered this because Kaya was only a saint emperor. Problems of the soul are the most difficult things to resolve, not to mention the fact that your friend's a little too weak. She hasn't even reached godhood, so she won't have any tolerance towards wounds of the soul at all. Brother Jian Chen, I'd advise you to find some heavenly resources or pills of higher grades. Although you've used a heavenly resource like this on her in the past, you need to understand that there are many heavenly resources that have these properties. Maybe the one you used was not suitable for your friend's condition, Xian Dou recommended. He was helpless over injuries of the soul. Jian Chen sighed gently. He put the crystal casket away again. There was also nothing he could do about Kaya's current situation, which was why he had asked Xian Dou. Suddenly, Xian Dou's face changed. He said, "In 3 days, the United Imperial Merchants Association just so happens to be holding their once every 100-year auction. The United Imperial Merchants Association is the greatest merchants association in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Not only do they have businesses across the entire Divine Kingdom, but they've even dabbled in the surrounding Divine Kingdoms. They do have some valuable items among the things that they have collected. And in the auction this time, I think there just happens to be a heavenly resource that deals with problems of the soul-drawing Lotus. Brother Jian Chen, maybe you could try acquiring it." "The soul-drawing Lotus," Jian Chen murmured, and his eyes gradually lit up. "However, all heavenly resources that heal the soul, regardless of grade, will be at least several times or several dozen times more expensive than other heavenly resources of the same grade. It could even be more expensive by a greater factor than that. Brother Jian Chen, you have to be ready." "Oh right, I just happen to have 5 blocks of high-grade divine crystal here." "Take them for now," said Xian Dou as he immediately handed over 5 blocks of divine crystal. "Thank you for your kind intentions, Commander Xian, but I just happen to have a few divine crystals on me. Buying the heavenly resource shouldn't be too great of a problem." Jian Chen turned down Xian Dou. Before long, he bid farewell to Xian Dou and left the estate. In another region of the royal capital, there were 2 veiled women in white dresses who moved through the bustling streets. Without any exhaustion at all, they moved from store to store with interest. Whenever they saw something that caught their eye, they would purchase it regardless of the price. Who knew just how many things they had already purchased along the way? Their reckless way of buying things naturally caught the attention of some other people with ill intentions. However, as soon as they began to stalk the two women, one of the ladies would glance at them, and they would pale immediately. After that, they would flee for their lives, unwilling to stay put for any longer. Sister Shiyu, this piece of clothing is so pretty. If you wear it, you'll have even more charm. When Patriarch Jian sees you, he'll definitely become infatuated. One of the two veiled women said to the other secretly in one store. Mo Yen, what are you saying? You need to control your mouth. Hee hee. Sister Shiyu, look at this piece of clothing. Do you think Patriarch Jian will seem even bolder if he wears it? Yep, that's it. I've made up my mind. I'm buying this to give to Patriarch Jian. The two veiled women were Shiyu and Mo Yen from the Tianyuan clan. Like Jian, they had also come to the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Chapter 1836. The young family's response. Beauty and shopping were the natural hobbies of almost all women. Very few women were able to form exceptions. Mo Yen and Shiyu were naturally like that as well. Even a god like Shiyu, someone who could be considered as an expert in the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian, was unable to resist her love for shopping and beauty. Shiyu and Mo Yen were having a great time in the royal capital. They shopped like madmen, buying away everything that caught their eye. They spent money like it was worth nothing. However, Shiyu naturally could afford to spend like this with her personal wealth and her status as a god. Sister Shiyu, there are 3 more days before the centennial auction of the royal capital. It'll definitely be full of people. Let's go and check it out when it happens, Mo Yen said to Shiyu with much excitement and eagerness. Shiyu nodded. Quite a lot of interesting items should appear in the centennial auction. Let's go check it out when it does happen. Let's hope that we can find the supreme grade materials that the Patriarch ordered us to look for. The supreme grade materials Shiyu spoke of were naturally the items for forging Jian's twin swords. When he left the Tianyuan clan, he had created a list of all the materials he needed to forge the twin swords. With help from the sword spirits, he had recorded all the characteristics and methods of procuring them in great detail so that the people of the clan could collect them. Unfortunately, all the materials Jian required were of supreme grade, making them simply too rare for a place like the divine kingdom of Pingtian. As a result, they had yet to find anything so far. Jian had only managed to collect the violet scale stone and the profound lightning rock from God King Duanmu's space ring so far. The Yang family was located in a large estate towards the center of the royal capital. In a radius of 5 kilometers from the estate, all people were forbidden apart from members of the Yang family. There was a majestic discussion hall in the large estate. The atmosphere in there was particularly stuffy. Not only was the patriarch of the Yang family present, seated on the patriarch's throne emotionlessly, but there were over 20 male and female gods seated below him. They were all gods and every single one of them was solemn. In the center of the hall stood the young master of the Yang family, Yang Tai, with his bloodied clothes. One of his arms was missing. His shoulder throbbed with intense pain, causing his face to constantly twitch. Father, that is how everything happened. That person went too far, provoking our Yang family time and time again. Our Yang family is one of the most powerful clans. How can we allow others to look down on us so much? Yang Tai narrated the entire story after bending some truths. He only felt utter hatred towards Jian now. A god who sat to the left of the patriarch became furious after Yang Tai finished his story. Those are all lies. There were 4 elders present in total, yet he was still able to kill one of them with such ease. Only overgods can achieve something like that. And who do you think overgods are? Why would they lower themselves to the level of a wastrel like you and abuse people that are far less great than them? In my opinion, the matter was probably instigated by you. Yang Tai, do you understand just how much trouble you've caused? Because of you, not only has our Yang family lost an elder, but we've also offended an overgod. You can't just provoke overgods for no good reason. If we let you continue like this, you'll create great problems for the clan sooner or later. The person who dared to speak out against Yang Tai before the patriarch and all the elders was an esteemed member of the Yang family. He was the elder brother of the current patriarch, Yang Lianxin. He had failed during the fight for the position of the patriarch in the past, which was why his younger brother was the patriarch now. Although he was now the grand elder of the Yang family, he possessed nowhere near as much power as the patriarch due to the differences in the system of the Yang family. He still desired the position of the patriarch very much, so he obviously would not miss a chance to admonish his younger brother. A few elders immediately added to Yang Lianxin's words. They agreed with him. The patriarch's face became ugly. He growled, "Enough. Since everything has already happened, there's no point dwelling on these matters." Even if it were really Tyre's fault, the overgod only needed to dish out a slight punish. Instead, he killed an elder of our Yang family. Our elders can't just be killed like that. If we don't demand a proper explanation, will we still have the dignity to remain in the royal capital in the future? Yang Aoran, do you plan on biting off more than you can chew by trying to take revenge against the overgod? It's not that I, your elder brother, don't believe in you, but you really don't have that power, so just listen to me. Don't trouble the ancestor, Yang Lianxin sneered. He secretly rejoiced, as Yang Tai's mistakes gave him hopes of removing his younger brother from the position of patriarch. This was because no matter what Yang Aoran did in response to the matter, a mistake was still a mistake. If he continued to pursue the matter, he might end up completely offending an overgod. Although the Yang family no longer feared most overgods with their power, they still could not go around provoking overgods, not even early overgods. Even if they had already completely offended the overgod, they would still have to consider whether pursuing the matter was worth it or not. However, if they did not pursue the matter, the Yang family's status would plummet. There might even be other people with ill intentions who would use the matter to write other things and create a greater negative image of the Yang family. As the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Aoran would be directly responsible. The patriarch naturally suspected that his elder brother eyed his position. He stared at Yang Lianxin coldly and said emotionlessly, "Elder brother, do you know why you were unable to become the patriarch? It's because you don't understand the ancestor at all. If you can understand him slightly, even just a little bit, the position of patriarch would have definitely ended up in your hands and not mine." Yang Lianxin was surprised by these words. He thought, is the reason why Yang Aoran is willing to pursue the matter because he understands the ancestor? Is he certain that the ancestor would support him? Pass down orders to immediately investigate all information regarding this overgod. Once the ancestor emerges, allow him to make the final decision, Yang Aoran immediately ordered. He had no intentions of blaming Yang Tai, and it was evident just how much he spoilt Yang Tai. Chapter 1837. The United Imperial Auction. Jian Chen emerged from Xian Dou's estate. He did not return to the Perched Phoenix Inn immediately. Instead, he strolled through the streets of the royal capital by himself. He did not even miss the free markets in the royal capital that sold a few items for independent cultivators. The royal capital was extremely large. Just the city itself was several times larger than the Jessen kingdom. However, with Jian Chen's current strength, he only needed 2 days to go through all the stores. However, his actions in the past 2 days were rather strange. He moved quickly, traversing hundreds or even thousands of meters with each step. He basically made his way down every street and alleyway. He visited areas with a dense population of shops or free markets on purpose. It seemed like he wanted to buy something, but he did not even enter a single store during the 2 days. His actions were rather confusing. Sigh. I've basically searched through the entire royal capital, but I haven't even found a single material for the twin swords. Jian Chen returned to the Perched Phoenix Inn. He stood in the same room as before as he gazed outside the window and mumbled to himself. He had always been searching for the materials for the twin swords in the past 2 days. Although he had never entered a single store, he had been looking secretly. He would sense it as soon as he discovered any of the necessary materials. There's still another day before the centennial auction held by the United Imperial Merchants Association. The soul-drawing Lotus holds the hopes of waking up Kaya. Even though the chances aren't significant, I have to obtain it, Chen murmured softly as his gaze became extremely determined. Afterwards, he tidied through all the divine crystals on him. After spending 6 blocks for the startling rainbow sword, he only had 4 blocks of high-grade divine crystals remaining from the 10 he had received from the Divine King. Additionally, he still had a few of the supreme-grade divine crystals from God King Duanmu's space ring. Although there was not a lot of them, there was roughly a block of high-grade divine crystal if he broke it down. 5 blocks. Even many clans with gods can't take out a sum like that. Only clans with overgods would have that much. It should be more than enough to get the soul-drawing Lotus, Chen felt certain. In the blink of an eye, the day of the centennial auction held by the Imperial United Merchants Association arrived. Clearly, the city was especially bustling on this day. There were discussions about the auction everywhere on the streets. Many people discussed in great interest just what valuable items would appear on the auction this time, or they would be sighing in pity that they did not have the power to take part in the auction this time. The area around the Imperial United Merchants Association was already packed. Many people stood in line with their seating tickets. They all slowly entered the huge, majestic building where the auction would be held. On the other side for the VIP entrance, a red carpet had already been rolled out on the floor that was covered with fragrant petals. Beautiful female servants stood in a row with smiles on their faces as they constantly welcomed the esteemed guests. Any person who could enter the auction through the VIP entrance possessed great statuses. Most of them came from organizations with overgods. Not only did this include organizations native to the divine kingdom of Ping, but it also included clans and organizations from neighboring divine kingdoms as well. The Imperial United Merchants Association was just too famous. They had held countless auctions across the years, and almost every single one of them would have treasures that were enough to interest clans with overgods. That's the carriage of the Guhun clan. The people of the Guhun clan have come. Do you see that white carriage with a snowflake imprint? That's the people of the Yubing clan from the frigid snow province. The people from the commander's estate have come as well. That lady seems to be their first young lady, Rourou. The carriage of the Yang family has come as well. That young man seems to be their young master, Yang Tai. Wasn't his arm cut off a few days ago? He has actually completely recovered now. Do you see that flag with the stars? That's the royal family of the divine kingdom of 9 stars. As the extremely luxurious carriages arrived and people from overgod organizations arrived one by one, the VIP entrance immediately became busy. Countless people gazed over, and the area became the center of attention. Whoa, Sister Shiyu, there are so many people here. It's so busy. At this moment, Mo Yen and Shiyu arrived. Their faces remained veiled. They did not arrive in luxurious carriages. Instead, they made their way over from afar, trudging over the carpet towards the entrance. Who are those 2 women? Don't they seem quite sorry arriving like this? Other people have come in luxurious carriages, while they've come on foot. Clearly, the organization behind the 2 women is just too weak. That's because they come from a clan with gods. They don't have the confidence of an overgod clan. Many people stared at Mo Yen and Shiyu as they secretly judged them. They did not look at them with the fear and envy that they showed towards overgod clans. Mo Yen and Shiyu did not mind it at all. They giggled as they walked, making their way into the auction elegantly. Afterwards, guests from various organizations arrived one after another. Most of them were famed overgod clans from neighboring divine kingdoms. They either came on powerful, rare beasts or rode luxurious carriages. They all paraded their wealth. Of course, there were also a few guests from clans with gods. Naturally, they did not parade their wealth as much, but they still made arrangements, so they would receive the respect that they deserved. Very few entered with such a low profile like Shiyu and Mo Yen. As everyone poured into the auction center, fewer and fewer people remained outside. Just as the doors were about to close, the white-robed Chen arrived in the distance steadily. He also entered through the VIP entrance as the last person to go in. The auction center was extremely large, and it was enough to seat several tens of thousand people. Currently, Chen sat in his private viewing box with his eyes closed, resting and waiting quietly for the auction to start. Around 5 minutes later, the auction finally started. The hostess for the auction was a mature, well-endowed and beautiful woman. Her level of cultivation was extraordinary as well, as she was a god. I am OD, the hostess for this centennial auction held by the Imperial United Merchants Association. Greetings to all, the hostess smiled gently as she stood on the stage. After introducing herself, she directly got to the point and began auctioning the first item. The first treasure is a flying sword. Even though it's only a medium-quality saint artifact, it has reached the peak of the medium quality. As a result, even when compared to inferior high-quality saint artifacts, it is almost the same in power. It's an extraordinary and rare piece of work. Everyone, you must understand just what a high-quality saint artifact is worth. This flying sword is almost on the same level, so I presume I don't need to explain any further the value of this flying sword. The starting price is 10,000 high-grade divine crystals. OD held a long, embroidered box as she introduced the item to everyone. To no surprise, a sword lay within the box, and it shone with a cold and threatening light. Chapter 1838, Sword of Ways, 15,000 high-grade divine crystals, 20,000 high-grade divine crystals, 30,000 high-grade divine crystals. 100,000 high-grade divine crystals. The flying sword intrigued many people. At the same time, there were a few people who revealed much desire and yearning towards possessing it. As a result, the price surpassed 100,000 high-grade divine crystals very quickly. There were 3 grades among medium-quality saint artifacts. Although Jian Chen had also obtained a medium-quality saint artifact in the Dong'an province, the flying snow sword, it was far cheaper than the flying sword right now. This was because the flying snow sword could only be considered as a rather normal medium-quality saint artifact. As a matter of fact, it was nowhere near the level of being considered as a superior medium-quality saint artifact, while the flying sword that had appeared in the auction was a masterpiece, even though it was also of medium quality. It was basically on par with inferior high-quality saint artifacts, so it would naturally be extremely valuable. 150,000 high-quality divine crystals, 180,000 high-quality divine crystals. The price of the medium-quality saint artifact continued to climb. Many people bid for it, which was why its price rose like this. It had already surpassed the limit that many clans with gods could afford, so they could only give up on it. Now, only a few people from clans with overgods within the private viewing boxes contended for it. After a fierce struggle, the flying sword that was only slightly inferior to a high-quality saint artifact was purchased by a person from an overgod organization from the divine kingdom of Xuan. The items for auction were brought up one by one. Not only were there various saint artifacts, but there were also a few precious heavenly resources, truth-tier battle skills, cultivation methods, and notes on cultivation. There were even various formation discs and banners that possessed extraordinary power. In such a grand auction, there were naturally various pills that normally never appeared. Even 3 soul recovery pills appeared, which piqued even Jian Chen's interest. He was tempted to buy all 3 of them immediately. Soul recovery pills could save his life in crucial times. If he had enough of them, he would have no need to worry about the consequences of consuming all the power of his soul from using 2 strands of profound sword chi together. Unfortunately, the soul recovery pills were just too expensive. Basically every single one of them had been sold for over 200,000 high-grade divine crystals, so Jian Chen could only suppress his desire. He still had a few soul recovery pills that he had obtained from God King Duanmu's space ring. As a result, he was not in desperate need of the pills right now. He had to use the limited sum of divine crystals he had to buy the soul-drawing Lotus. I believe many will find interest in the item for auction next. The hostess smiled on the stage. She currently held an embroidered box covered in formations with great caution. Ever since the auction began, this was the first time the hostess had revealed such a stern expression, which made people realize that the item within the box was probably something special. At that moment, everyone became interested. Their eyes shone as they stared at the box within Odie's hands. Odie carefully removed the formations on the box. She moved extremely slowly and with great care. However, it was exactly because of her actions that everyone became even more intrigued by the item within the box. Finally, the formations on the box was completely removed. Odie used her elegant fingers to remove the lid carefully. Instantly, a deathly presence of destruction began to radiate from it, filling the entire auction center. The expressions of all the gods present changed drastically, revealing their shock. Chen also became surprised. He stared at the box. Within the box laid a translucent sword that was the length of a hand. The deathly presence of destruction experienced by all the gods originated from this sword. Odie brought the box around so that everyone could see it before closing the box immediately. She cut off the presence of the sword that was extremely terrifying to gods. A sword of ways. It's a sword of ways. Someone suddenly cried out from one of the private boxes. The tens of thousands of people present were immediately thrown into an uproar when they heard this person's words. They all discussed with each other softly as shock was plastered across their faces. Odie stood on the stage as her gentle and pleasant voice rang out, "Correct, this is a sword of ways, and it's one condensed by an overgod." Odie continued, "Although many of you have already recognized what it is, I believe there are still quite a few of you who have no idea what a sword of ways is. Allow me to explain in detail. A sword of ways cannot be condensed by those below overgod. Once someone reaches overgod, they can use their comprehension to control the laws of the world and forcefully seal it into a piece of stone of ways, which forms a sword of ways. Each sword's power is equivalent to a strike from the expert who condensed the sword. It's only a single attack condensed from the laws of the world, so it lacks adaptability and ingenuity, making it very difficult to threaten experts of the same level. However, it is a fatal threat to those one cultivation level lower. It can kill them instantly or even heavily injure a large group of people. Let's use the sword of ways here as an example. It was condensed by an overgod, so you all must have sensed how terrifying it was. May I ask just how great of a chance do you have to survive if someone used this against you?" Many people paled slightly when they heard Odie's explanation. They became extremely stern. Before, they had all clearly sensed the presence of destruction from within the sword of ways. In front of the presence, all of them felt their souls tremble. A sliver of pity appeared on Odie's face. She continued, "Unfortunately, although overgods only need some time to condense a sword of ways, the stones of ways that can record the laws of the world are extremely hard to find, which is why swords of ways are extremely rare in our region." Odie's face suddenly changed. She raised the box up high and said, "The bidding for the sword of ways starts now. If you need a clan treasure, if you need a trump card to save your life, if you have an enemy who is also a god, you cannot miss the opportunity to purchase this item. The starting price is 500,000 high-grade divine crystals." Chapter 1839. The soul-drawing Lotus appears for a moment. The auction center fell dead silent. After the hostess announced the starting price, no one added to it. Everyone stared at the embroidered box in Odie's hands. There were no exceptions, not even people from overgod organizations. The light in their eyes flickered as they secretly pondered to themselves. Odie stood on the stage quietly. She was not surprised by this at all. Instead, she smiled confidently. This was the calm before the storm. The appearance of the sword of ways would definitely lead the auction to a new high. This was because the sword of ways was far more valuable than any item auctioned earlier. Since no one is bidding, allow me to start. 600,000. Everyone, if you want the sword of ways, you can't keep up the silence, or once she counts to 3, the way of swords will be purchased by me for 600,000 high-grade divine crystals. The strange silence did not last for very long. It was disturbed by a confident, middle-aged man. His voice came from a viewing box, and it sounded like he was smiling when he said that. "You must be joking, brother. After all, a sword of ways is useless for overgods, but it holds extremely great significance to us. You would be bringing disgrace to the sword of ways to purchase it with just 600,000 high-grade divine crystals. It would also tarnish the name of the overgod who created it. A voice rang out from another viewing box as soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking. The voice was rather feminine and was riddled with disdain. Afterwards, the feminine voice stated his price coldly after a slight pause. The Jian clan of the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds will pay 1,000,000 high-grade divine crystals. It's the people from the Jian clan. I never thought that in that viewing box sat the people of the Jian clan. Not only does the Jian clan have an overgod, but they're extremely powerful as well. In the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds, they're equivalent to the Yang family in the Divine Kingdom of Ping. Are they that only clan that possesses 2 overgods in the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds? After the Jian clan stated their identity, a series of discussions immediately sprang up around the auction center. Many people showed surprise when they discussed the Jian clan. It was extremely rare for a clan to have 2 overgods in the surrounding divine kingdoms. Even when looking at all the divine kingdoms in the entire region, it would be very difficult to find another clan with 2 overgods. The fame of the Jian clan really was widespread. However, fame was only fame. 90% of all the people seated in the viewing boxes came from overgod clans, so they naturally would not hold back in the face of such a treasure. 1,200,000 high-grade divine crystals. 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals. The bidding war for the Sword of Ways was extremely intense. Basically, most of the people from overgod clans took part in the bidding war this time. After all, the Sword of Ways possessed the power to kill a god instantly, and even late gods would not be able to avoid such a fate. Clans with overgods would naturally value a treasure like that. The price rapidly soared, surpassing 2,000,000 high-grade divine crystals very soon. A few overgod clans gave up on the bidding war, but there were still many who did not back off, and they constantly added to the price. As a matter of fact, there were even people who began to name their clans in hopes that the prestige of their clan could deter the other competitors. Unfortunately, the clans did not really fear each other, as they came from different divine kingdoms. In the end, the Sword of Ways was purchased by an overgod organization from the Divine Kingdom of 9 Stars for 4,000,000 high-grade divine crystals. Even Chen was amazed by the price. He had learned quite a lot about Swords of Ways from Commander Xian. Creating one was nothing difficult for an overgod. All they needed was some time. The true obstacle was finding a Stone of Ways that could carry the laws of the world. If he possessed a Stone of Ways, would he not be able to make millions of high-quality divine crystals in such an easy fashion? Afterwards, a few more items were sold. Every single one of them was extraordinary. Even to the overgod clans, these were exceptional treasures. Their final prices were shockingly high, reaching into hundreds of thousand high-grade divine crystals at the very least. After all, the Imperial United Merchants Association had scoured the lands for a century to collect all of these things. Anything they took out would definitely be valuable. Everyone, the item next is extremely valuable. However, due to its special characteristics, it cannot be revealed to the outside world for long periods of time and must be stored away carefully to preserve its greatest efficacy. Everyone, please look closely. OD held an ancient wooden box that was a foot in length and width. The box was sealed tightly, and as she spoke, she gradually opened it. Immediately, a wondrous fragrance was emitted. The fragrance caused everyone's souls to shake. At that moment, everyone felt their souls tremble uncontrollably. A feeling of either comfort or intoxication pervaded the depths of their heads. Chen's eyes snapped open at this moment. A strange light filled his eyes as he stared at the wooden box. Inside the wooden box laid a lotus. It was only the size of a fist, and it was black like ink. Its 9 petals laid open and trembled gently. Every single petal possessed a strange pattern, which seemed to interweave with the laws of the world. They seemed to possess a mysterious power. In just a split second, OD closed the lid of the box again and reactivated the formation on it, completely covering up the soul-drawing lotus presence again. She smiled faintly. This is the soul-drawing lotus. It's extremely rare and is extremely effective for healing wounds of the soul. At the same time, it can consolidate and strengthen the soul. You all must know its value, so I'll cut to the chase. The starting price is 500,000 high-grade divine crystals. The soul-drawing lotus. It really is the soul-drawing lotus. Our Grand Elder is saved. A middle-aged man with eyebrows as straight as swords stared at the wooden box in Odie's hands as he spoke with a trembling voice within his viewing box. The soul-drawing lotus plays a direct role in whether our Grand Elder lives or not. As a result, we have to buy it no matter what. There were 3 other men of the same age aside from the person who had spoken first. One of them spoke coldly, and confidence filled his eyes. He was eager to obtain it. Chapter 1840, The Thunder Family. It's a pity that the Grand Elder is still a late god. His heavy wounds to the soul several dozen years ago have damaged his vitality. Even if his soul is cured with the soul-drawing lotus, he probably won't be able to reach over God. The ancestor is only willing to spend 3 blocks of high-quality divine crystals on him, and that's all because of all the contributions he made to the clan as the Grand Elder. Let's just hope that there won't be too many people who bid for the soul-drawing lotus. Although 3 million high-grade divine crystals should technically be enough to purchase the heavenly resource, I am just worried that the price will climb higher and higher if there are a lot of bidders, said a third middle-aged man. He was slightly worried. We have to obtain the soul-drawing lotus. Even if someone else manages to buy the lotus, let's see if they have the power to take it away with them, the fourth middle-aged man said coldly as a serious light flickered through his eyes. At the same time, a few other people from clans with overgods and other viewing boxes desired the soul-drawing lotus as well. Although many heavenly resources could heal the soul in the saints' world, most of them were ordinary items that were not very useful to people at higher cultivation realms. On the other hand, high-grade heavenly resources like soul-drawing lotuses were extremely rare. It did not matter whether they needed it or not. If they could buy it, they could just put it aside for when they needed it. After just a few bids, the price of the lotus rose to 1 million high-grade divine crystals. The people from the overgod clans understood its value, so they all took part in the bidding. None of them were willing to miss it. 1,200,000 high-grade divine crystals, 1,300,000 high-grade divine crystals, 1,800,000 high-grade divine crystals. The 4 middle-aged men became rather impatient as they watched the price climb. Immediately, one of them stood up and clasped his hands towards the window of his viewing box. Everyone, we come from the Thunder family of the divine kingdom of Ethercloud. Our Grand Elder has suffered extremely severe injuries to the soul, where it has even reached the stage where his life is threatened. We are in desperate need of the soul-drawing lotus. Moreover, the ancestor has given us, the Lightning Brothers, orders when we came here today. He instructed us that we have to obtain this soul-drawing lotus no matter what to save the Grand Elder. As a result, I hope everyone can give up on it and allow our Thunder family to take the lotus. Our Thunder family will feel deep gratitude if that happens. We are going to bid 2,500,000 high-grade divine crystals. I do believe that this is a worthy price for the lotus. The Thunder family of the divine kingdom of Ethercloud is an extremely impressive clan. It's said that a god king appeared for them 100,000 years ago, but he vanished mysteriously afterwards. I never thought that the Lightning Brothers would personally come. They're the 4 heavenly kings of the Thunder family, and they all possess extremely great strength. It's said that they've grasped a combination attack, where they can even overcome the huge disparity and fend off overgods when they work together. It's extremely powerful. The competition for the soul-drawing lotus came to a temporary halt after the Lightning Brothers spoke out. The price remained at 2,500,000 high-grade divine crystals. No one bid for quite some time. Most of the people gathered here came from different divine kingdoms. With the obstruction of a border, the divine kingdoms did not fear each other as much, given that the clans possessed similar strength. However, the Thunder family of the divine kingdom of Ethercloud was an exception. They were extremely powerful and great deviants. Even with the existence of borders, most people did not dare to offend the Thunder family. Even one of the most powerful clans in the divine kingdom of Peng, the Yang family, feared the Thunder family very much. The Thunder family of the divine kingdom of Ether Cloud? Chen murmured to himself quietly. He could not help but think of the information he had learnt during his conversation with Xian Do about the Thunder family. Even Xian Do feared the Thunder family slightly because there was a rumor that they had gained a god king 100,000 years ago. The rumor was basically confirmed, but for some reason, the god king vanished mysteriously. There had been no news of him since. Even when ignoring the missing god king of the Thunder family, their strength in general was extremely great and terrifying. It was rumored that the Thunder family originated from an extremely mysterious and ancient royal family. Their bloodline was special, giving them a natural affinity with lightning. Over 90% of the Thunder family would become gods by comprehending the laws of lightning, which was one of the most offensive laws among them all. It stood beside the laws of the sword and the laws of destruction. Moreover, the people from the Thunder family were much more skilled with the laws of lightning than others. The entire clan was basically favored by lightning, so they possessed a natural advantage. Aside from that, there was another important reason: they were also a clan with 2 overgods. Since the Thunder family is in desperate need of the soul-drawing Lotus, our Chu clan will give up on it. Our Cloud Separation sect will also give up on the Lotus. The Heaven-Scaling Pavilion will give up on the soul-drawing Lotus. Many organizations with overgods gave up on the heavenly resource. Basically, all of them declared their names to express their kind intentions, as they were unwilling to offend the Thunder family. The 4 brothers gradually smiled. They all let out a sigh of relief. However, before they could maintain their smile for long, a calm voice rang out. I will pay 3 million high-grade divine crystals. I am also in great need of the soul-drawing Lotus. Chen finally stated his price from his own viewing box. He needed the soul-drawing Lotus, as it was a key to awakening Kaya. The entire auction center fell silent. They all glanced in the direction of Chen's voice, looking towards his viewing box. Unfortunately, the curtains were closed, and there were formations that warded off the senses of the soul. As a result, unless the person inside was willing, other people would not be able to send in their senses to observe the interior. Shi Yu and Mo Yen sat in a viewing box leisurely. They watched the ferocious struggles within the auction center with interest. However, when they heard Chen's voice, their faces immediately froze. Sister Shiyu, that seems to be Patriarch Chen. Do you think Patriarch Chen is here? Mo Yan's eyes widened as she stared at Shiyu in surprise, but her face gradually lit up. Shiyu nodded silently. She said quietly, yes, that's the Patriarch's voice. The Patriarch has gone missing for several decades. News had only just appeared that he was in God King Duanmu's dwelling, but who would have thought he would actually come to the royal capital, and he is even taking part in the auction this time. Chapter 1841, Refinement. Adamantine, who is in that viewing box? He's unwilling to step down even for the famed Thunder family from the divine kingdom of Ether Cloud. Moreover, seeing how calmly he spoke, he possesses great confidence. Clearly, he doesn't fear the Thunder family. None of us can afford to offend the Thunder family, nor can we offend that existence who does not even fear the Thunder family. Whatever. We won't take part in the bidding war for the soul-drawing Lotus. We can't afford to offend either of them, so we must never state a price. If we do state a price, they'll probably bear grudges with us even if one of them do obtain it in the end. All the people from the over-god organizations made up their minds. They were all extremely fearful of the Thunder family. Over 90% of the people with the bloodline of the Thunder family would comprehend the laws of lightning once they reached godhood, which was one of the laws with the greatest offensive power. The special bloodline of the clan shocked everyone, and it also filled them with fear towards it. Combined with the existence of 2 overgods, with one having reached late overgod in particular, the Thunder family could be crowned as the greatest clan in the region without any dispute. Only the royal families of the divine kingdoms would be able to keep them at bay. Moreover, a god king had even appeared in the clan 100,000 years ago. Although he had vanished mysteriously, there was no news of his death. If the missing god king was included, then even the royal families would fear the Thunder family. Jian Chen's bid made the four brothers reveal rather ugly expressions. The soul-drawing lotus was just too important to them, as it was directly connected to their grand elder's life. Greetings from the Lightning Brothers. However, we are in desperate need of the soul-drawing lotus, so we must obtain it no matter what. I hope you can stand down. We will be filled with gratitude if you do that, one of the four brothers said. Although he spoke calmly, his voice was filled with a sense of forcefulness, and it was like a threat. They had to obtain this item no matter what. That was more than enough for Jian Chen to understand that even if he truly managed to buy the soul-drawing lotus, the four brothers would probably use everything they had to claim the lotus. That naturally included theft. I'm also trying to save the life of a friend by buying this lotus. As a result, I can't let you have it. Moreover, I too have made up my mind, just like you four brothers, Jian Chen responded firmly. He did not leave them any grounds for discussion. Everyone immediately became astounded when they heard Jian Chen's words. Even the people from other over-god clans looked towards Jian Chen's viewing box. They also wondered whether Jian Chen really possessed the strength where there was no need for him to fear the Thunder family since he spoke like that, or was it because he had no idea about the power of the Thunder family? The four brothers fell silent. Currently, their faces had become terrifyingly sunken. At the same time, they experienced some resentment, questioning why the ancestor did not place more importance on the Grand Elder and was only willing to spend 3 blocks of high-grade divine crystals to save him. Otherwise, they would not end up in such an awkward situation. We will pay 3,500,000 high-grade divine crystals. That's all the wealth on the four of us. Sir, do you still plan on contending? Please think it through before you say anything, one of the four brothers said coldly. The extra 500,000 high-grade divine crystals came from all the savings of the four brothers. 3,600,000. Jian Chen bid without any hesitation. At the same time, he let out a breath of relief. He only possessed 5 blocks of high-grade divine crystal in total right now, so he really was worried that the four brothers would bid higher than what he could afford. After all, the Thunder family was an established and glorious clan. After they had accumulated wealth for so many years, it was impossible for the Tian Yuan clan to rival them. 3,600,000 going once, the hostess smiled brightly on the stage. 3,600,000 going twice, 3,600,000 going 3 times. I declare that the soul-drawing lotus has been purchased by the esteemed guest in viewing box number 98. Jian Chen successfully obtained the soul-drawing lotus, while the Lightning Brothers said nothing else. However, everyone at the auction understood that the Lightning Brothers would not just let the matter end like this. Jian Chen's feelings fluctuated as he held the soul-drawing lotus. He experienced joy and eagerness. Kaya had been unconscious for simply far too long, and it was to the point where even he could do nothing about it. Finally, there was a shred of hope now. However, Jian Chen did not leave. He remained at the auction center to see if anything else useful for him would appear. Afterwards, Jian Chen bid for a few more items. He purchased some things for his good friends that had come up from the Tian Yuan continent. In this way, he spent all the remaining divine crystals he had on him. I've spent all 5 blocks of high-grade divine crystals now. The ancestor of the Mo family in the divine kingdom of Qingyang owes me things as well. Looks like I need to find some time to pay him a visit. Jian Chen felt helpless as he stared at the loose divine crystals in his space ring. Now, he had returned to the life of being penniless. He probably could not even afford to stay on the top floor of the perched Phoenix Inn. In all likelihood, no one would believe him that a mighty over-god could become so poor. The item for auction next is a supreme-grade material for forging weapons, the scarlet gold Oregon. OD took out another item. It was a special piece of metal that was the size of a head. It shone with a wondrous luster and possessed strands of the laws of metal. Originally, Jian Chen did not care for any materials, as quite a few materials had already appeared during the auction this time. Unfortunately, none of them were of any use to him. However, when he glanced at the scarlet gold ore out of habit, his eyes narrowed suddenly. Master, that is the Refinement Adamantine. It's a material for forging the twin swords. At this moment, the voices of the sword spirits rang out. The scarlet gold ore was also the Refinement Adamantine. It was just that different names were used in the saints' world and the immortals' world. Chen immediately frowned as bitterness filled his face. The Refinement Adamantine just had to appear after he had spent all his divine crystals. Life was making things tough for him. Currently in Shiyu and Mo Yan's viewing box, Shiyu paid complete attention to the Refinement Adamantine. She was stern as she studied all the characteristics of the metal with great diligence. Very soon, her eyes lit up, as she had confirmed that this item was one of the materials their patriarch had ordered the clan to find. Chapter 1842. The two girls step up. Not only is this piece of scarlet gold or a supreme grade material, but you must be able to sense the extremely pure power of the laws of metal within it as well. If those who have comprehended the laws of metal hold this item as they cultivate, comprehending the laws of metal will become much, much easier. There's no need for me to go into further depth about its value. Alright, the bidding for the scarlet gold ore begins now. The starting price will be 100,000 high-grade divine crystals, OD said from the stage. 150,000 high-grade divine crystals, 200,000 high-grade divine crystals. The scarlet gold ore had truly exceeded the value of other supreme-grade materials. The main reason was the pure laws of metal hidden within. Cultivation would become much easier when this item was used, so it was enough to pique the interest of all the godhood experts present who had comprehended the laws of metal. Very soon, the scarlet gold ore had reached a price of 500,000 high-grade divine crystals. This had completely exceeded the price of any previous supreme-grade material. The bidding war for the scarlet gold ore continued. For clans with overgods constantly increased the price as they engaged in a fierce struggle. They had basically taken out all their wealth to fend off each other. Shiyu sat in her viewing box with her veil on. As she listened to the bidding war outside, she became slightly confused. She murmured gently, "Isn't the scarlet gold ore a material that the patriarch needs? Why haven't I heard the patriarch bid? Does the patriarch plan on stepping in at the end? Sister Shiyu, what are you mumbling to yourself for?" Mo Yan turned her head and stared at Shiyu with her large, beautiful eyes as she listened to Shiyu murmur. "It's nothing. I'm just curious about why the patriarch isn't bidding for the scarlet gold ore again." Before he left, he had given a list of materials he was looking for to all of us elders. He asked us to look out for these materials and to purchase them regardless of the cost once we found them. The scarlet gold ore is one of the materials that the patriarch needs, but I haven't heard him bid at all, which was why I grew curious, Shiyu said with some confusion. Mo Yan came to a realization. She rolled her eyes slowly, and her face suddenly changed. "Sister Shiyu, do you think Patriarch Jian Chen has run out of divine crystals? After all, he bought quite a lot of things before. He must have spent all the divine crystals on him." "That shouldn't be likely," Shiyu hesitated. Her instincts told her that it was unlikely. After all, the patriarch was an overgod and an extremely powerful one at that. He would not be troubled by divine crystals, right? If that's really the case, but the scarlet gold ore has already reached a price of 1.5 million. "I don't have that much on me, so there's nothing I can do either," Shiyu frowned helplessly. In the end, the scarlet gold ore was purchased by the Blood Blade sect of the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds for 2 million high-grade divine crystals. The Blood Blade sect, Jian Chen sat in his viewing box and stared at where the people from the Blood Blade sect resided. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty before becoming determined. The scarlet gold ore was a material crucial for the forging of the twin swords. If he missed it this time, he had no idea when he could find more of it. As a result, he could not let it go. "I'll go find the people from the Blood Blade sect once they leave the auction. I'll try to exchange for it using other things I have on me," Jian Chen made up his mind and began to pay attention to the people from the Blood Blade sect secretly. The item for auction next is also a material. It's called pyrogold. Jian Chen became stunned once again when the next item was taken out. He let out a long sigh as he felt extremely conflicted inside. The pyrogold was also a material for forging the twin swords. Normally, it was very difficult to find any supreme-grade materials for forging the twin swords, yet two had appeared all of a sudden today, and it happened just when he had spent all his divine crystals. Jian Chen felt extremely conflicted inside. At the same time, Xiyu recognized the pyrogold as something that their patriarch had ordered them to find as well. Her eyes immediately lit up. I've already missed one material that the patriarch has asked us to find. I have to buy the second material no matter what, but I haven't brought that many divine crystals with me. It's impossible for me to stand up to the other overgod clans in price, so it looks like I can only resort to tactics now. Xiyu thought. In another viewing box sat two elders from the Yang family. Their eyes had also lit up when they saw the pyrogold. It's pyrogold, pyrogold. The pyrogold that the ancestor ordered us to find has finally appeared. We have to obtain this pyrogold. The ancestor seems to be in desperate need of it, the two elders said softly. Excitement filled their eyes. If they managed to hand the pyrogold to the ancestor, it would be an action of great merit, and they would be rewarded accordingly. Pyrogold is only condensed as a tiny piece. There is only a minuscule chance of it condensing under the blazings of a fireland. It's a supreme-grade material, and I don't need to elaborate on its value. The starting price is 100,000 high-grade divine crystals, said O.D. Our Tian Yuan clan will bid 100,000 high-quality divine crystals. Shiyu's voice rang out as soon as O.D. finished her words. It rang through the entire auction center and attracted the attention of countless people. Although the Tian Yuan clan had only been founded recently, their fame did not falter in the face of older organizations with overgods at all. As a matter of fact, their fame had far exceeded the older organizations. This was all because of the fight between their patriarch, Jian Chen, and the protector of the Earth Spirit sect, Weiner Yan. Weiner Yan had comprehended the laws of strength, but Jian Chen fought him empty-handed and achieved a landslide victory. He possessed extremely terrifying power. And in recent times, there was news that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had broken through once again by comprehending the laws of the sword in God King Duanmu's dwelling, shocking countless people. Basically, even most of the overgod organizations in the surrounding divine kingdoms had heard about the matter. As a result, many organizations with overgods feared the Tian Yuan clan greatly. In their eyes, the threat of their patriarch was far greater than even the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai. This was because he comprehended the laws of the sword. Xiyu added, the patriarch has given orders that we must purchase all the materials that he requires if we come across it. The pyrogold just happens to be one of them, so I hope everyone can hold back and allow our Tian Yuan clan to obtain the pyrogold. I, Xiyu, will be filled with gratitude. Then, Xiyu continued, of course, you are still welcome to bid. There's just one thing I must clarify. The pyrogold is extremely important to our patriarch. The patriarch desires it very much, so even if you win the bid for the pyrogold, our patriarch will not give up on it. That's right, that's right. Sister Xiyu is completely right. Our patriarch Jian Chen desires the pyrogold very much. Moreover, I heard that patriarch Jian Chen doesn't really have a good temperament. I've heard that in the past, inside God King Duanmu's dwelling, an overgod had disrespected him. Afterwards, he slaughtered the overgod without any hesitation at all, dispersing his soul. All of you guess just how many moves he used to kill the overgod. Mo Yen also jumped into the action. She winked at Xiyu cleverly as she said these words with great interest. You definitely won't be able to guess it, so let me tell you. It was one move. Patriarch Jian Chen used a total of one move to kill an overgod. You gods may not believe this, but do go back to your clans and ask your overgod seniors about the truth of this matter. There were so many overgods present when it happened back then, Mo Yen giggled. She felt proud. Although she did not see it happen, she had heard all about it. Chapter 1843, The Threat of the Yang Family. 1. All the people with overgods backing them up hesitated when they heard Xiu mention how their patriarch, Chen, desired the pyrogold very much. Deep fear filled their eyes. Back when the news of God King Duanmu's dwelling appearing in the Dong'an province of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian broke out, basically all the overgods had taken part in the fight for the God King's fortune. They would naturally be familiar with Chen. This time, when they came to the divine kingdom of Ping Tian to take part in the centennial auction hosted by the Imperial United Merchants Association, their ancestors had all warned them to never offend the Tian Yuan clan. Even if they had to offend the Yang family, they could not offend the Tian Yuan clan. Everyone realized that the Tian Yuan clan could not be trifled with from the warnings of their ancestors, so the people who were originally interested in the pyrogold all hesitated when they heard that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan required the item. The people with overgods backing them did not doubt what Mo Yen added at the end, where she talked about how Chen had killed an overgod in a single move. They did not doubt it because their ancestors had witnessed it and told them that such a matter had indeed occurred. Even though it was only an early overgod, it was indeed just a single move. However, those people who did not sit within the viewing boxes did not believe the matter. They all began to voice their doubts. Quite a few of them were gods. Xiu and Mo Yen were in no mood to clear up the doubts. They only hoped to deter the organizations with overgods and make them back off and not take part in the competition. It was not important to the two girls whether the people who were irrelevant to the auction of this item believed whether Chen had truly killed an overgod in a single stroke. Since the pyrogold is something that the patriarch requires, our Guhan clan will not take part in the bidding. A middle-aged man stood before the window of a viewing box. He clasped his hands towards Xiu with a smile and spoke extremely politely. It's the patriarch of the Guhan clan. I thank the patriarch very much for stepping back. Xiu clasped her fist back at him. The Guhan clan was an overgod clan in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. Recently, they had been on good terms with the Tian Yuan clan. We originally planned to buy the pyrogold as well, but I never thought that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would require it. If that's the case, our Ling family won't take part in the bidding either. The window of another viewing box had opened. The patriarch of the Ling family from the sword-seeking province stood there. He smiled amicably. Thanks to Chen's support, the Tian Yuan clan possessed some deterrence within the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. Excluding the clans from the 5 provincial cities, even many overgod organizations within the royal capital feared the Tian Yuan clan slightly. Afterwards, basically all the overgod clans from within the divine kingdom of Ping Tian declared that they would give up on the item, whether they had been interested in it in the first place or not. They had done it out of respect for the Tian Yuan clan, as well as to show their kind intentions. After the overgod clans from the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, the organizations from other divine kingdoms did not fall behind either. They all expressed their intentions. Even clans who were truly interested in the pyrogold could not help but give up on it after weighing the cost and benefits. They all took their ancestors' warnings to heart. They would never offend the Tian Yuan clan. Although the pyrogold was a supreme grade material that was rare in this part of the world, it was just a piece of rock after all. There was no need to offend a powerful overgod over a material. The 2 elders of the Yang family who also sat in viewing boxes were currently uneasy. They were hesitant. I never thought that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would also require the pyrogold, and that he would need it dearly. But our ancestor also needs it very much. Do we engage in a battle with the Tian Yuan clan for the pyrogold? One of the elders asked. He was anxious inside. The other elder said after some thought, if we take part in the bidding, we'll definitely offend the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. We can't mess around. In my opinion, we should report to the ancestor as soon as possible and get the ancestor to make a decision on this matter. Let's not tarry then. Let's go back now. The 2 elders did not watch the rest of the auction unfold. They left the auction in a hurry to return to the Yang family. No one else bid for the pyrogold in the huge auction center. The hostess was helpless about the situation. The value of the pyrogold was definitely more than that. In regular auctions, it could go for at least 500,000 high-grade divine crystals, but she could only let the Tian Yuan clan get it for a bargain now. In the end, Xiu obtained the pyrogold for 100,000 high-grade divine crystals. Even when the next item for auction was brought up, Chen still had not returned to his senses. He remained seated in his viewing box as he stared at where Xiu was. Surprise was plastered across his face. Not only had he come across the two girls out of complete surprise here, but Xiu had even used a method he had never even thought of to purchase the pyrogold at a reduced price. A while later, Chen shook his head with a faint smile. He murmured, "I never thought that I would have so much prestige." I wasn't surprised by how the people from the 5 provincial cities had backed out. After all, I had worked with their ancestors in the past. I just never thought that the over-god clans from other divine kingdoms would do this for me. It's really quite surprising. It was also at this moment that Chen could not help but think back to the time when he and Jian had first come to the Saints' world. They had encountered the early god ancestor of the Lu family, Lu Tian, and engaged in a battle of life and death. Yet now, in less than a century, he who had struggled in a fight against an early god had already become an expert feared by most over-god clans. Chen could not help but become amazed by such a great change. The auction continued. Over-god level formation discs and truth tier battle skills that were enough to pique the interest of over-gods appeared later on. Each and every one of these items were sold for an astronomical price of over 100,000 high-grade divine crystals. Even organizations with over-gods and rich heritages would become interested in treasures like that. It led to a brutal struggle between many organizations. Even when the powerful clans feared by many took part, it was not enough to cause even a pause in the bidding. Every single item held great significance for clans. Their influence would be extremely great, so it was directly tied to the future of the clan. However, the Tian Yuan clan did not take part. It was not because the Tian Yuan clan already had these items. Rather, it was because they lacked the wealth. The pyrogold was only a supreme grade material, which was enough to deter people from taking part. However, before over-god level formation discs and truth tier battle skills for over-gods, it was naturally impossible. At the same time, the two elders who had just left the auction politely stood with Yang Aoran before the door to a secret room in the forbidden grounds of the Yang family. "Why have you disturbed me during my secluded cultivation?" A dignified voice rang out from the room. It was the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai. Yang Aoran and the two elders immediately bowed deeply. One of the elders said, "Ancestor, we found the pyrogold that you require in the centennial auction of the Imperial United Merchants Association." "What? You found the pyrogold?" Yang Kai's excited voice rang out from within the secret room. It was filled with much joy. However, he calmed down very quickly. He asked, "Have you come across problems in obtaining the pyrogold?" The ancestor is wise. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is also in desperate need of the pyrogold. And in recent times, there are rumors that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has broken through once again in God King Duanmu's dwelling. If we bid for the pyrogold, it would be extremely likely that we would offend the Tian Yuan clan. As the matter relates to just too much, we were unable to make the decision, which is why we've come to you, ancestor, said the elder. The voice fell silent again. Yang Kai only spoke out after quite a while. "Who from the Tian Yuan clan has come to the royal capital?" "Is Jian Chen here?" "Ancestor, it's Elder Xiu of the Tian Yuan clan. We are unable to determine the whereabouts of their patriarch. Recently, he appeared in the Ling family of the sword-seeking province. Also, Elder Lu of our clan was slain by an unknown overgod 3 days ago in the royal capital," Yang Aoran said politely. He explained the matter of Elder Lu's death to the ancestor in detail and did his best to cover up Yang Tai's responsibility. He pushed all the blame onto the overgod that they had yet to identify. "Put the matter of Elder Lu's death aside for now. The pyrogold is extremely important to me, so we must obtain it as soon as possible." Yang Aoran set off personally with Yang Lianxin and some elders. You must invite Shiyu to the clan, Yang Kai's voice rang out from the secret room. The two elders who had returned from the auction shivered inside. Yang Aoran and Yang Lianxin were the two most powerful gods in the Yang family so far. They were both late gods, and they had grasped extraordinary battle skills. In battle, regular late gods were not their opponents. They had never expected the ancestor to send both of them together. Chapter 1844, The Threat of the Yang Family, 2. The centennial auction held by the Imperial United Merchants Association ended. The people who had gathered for it all dispersed. It was especially quiet when the people left. From time to time, there would be people who would glance at the viewing boxes. Their gazes would be filled with curiosity, flicker with uncertainty, or be completely calm. It simply had to be mentioned that quite a lot of impressive items had appeared in the auction this time. However, as with most auctions with treasures, there would be bloody conflict after it. It would never be peaceful. This was very common in the saints' world, and it was nothing new. People could die for wealth. In the saints' world, there would always be quite a lot of people who would be willing to risk their lives in an attempt to obtain their own fortune so that they could forge a brand new tomorrow through their personal hard work. The people from the Overgod clans slowly made their way outside. All the organizations with overgods had sent several gods to partake in the auction this time. Even though that was the case, a few people who had managed to purchase great treasures remained cautious. Even when they were protected by many elders from their clans, they still would not drop their guard. All of them understood that even if they came from clans with overgods and possessed a great background, there would still be many independent cultivators who would eye the items in their possession while paying no heed to the clan behind them. At this moment, slight ripples of space appeared in a few viewing boxes. Some people had taken out teleportation discs and teleported away in the boxes. Without a single exception, these people had all managed to purchase priceless treasures in the auction. They had left using teleportation formations to prevent others from robbing them. They were being extremely cautious. As a high-quality material, the pyrogold was also valuable, and it was worth 500,000 high-grade divine crystals at the very least. However, the people who carried it, Shiyu and Mo Yen, showed no worry at all. They were especially relaxed, and they even seemed to be excited over the reward that they would receive. Sister Shiyu, let's go and find Patriarch Jian Chen, Mo Yen said to Shiyu. She smiled mischievously as she pulled Shiyu out of the viewing box by her hand. Shiyu nodded. The pyrogold was something that Jian Chen needed, so she wanted to hand it over to him as soon as possible, as it would only be truly safe with him. Let's go and find that person who purchased the soul-drawing lotus. We have to get it no matter what, or the Grand Elder won't be able to last for another 100 years. The Lightning Brothers from the Thunder family of the Divine Kingdom of Ethercloud also stood up and directly made their way towards Jian Chen's viewing box. Jian Chen remained seated leisurely in his viewing box. He had not left yet. He had already expanded the senses of his soul, which enveloped a viewing box on the other side. The viewing box in question belonged to the people from the Blood Blade sect of the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds. These people had purchased the Refinement Adamantine. Every inch of the auction center was covered with powerful formations, so Jian Chen was unable to send his senses into the viewing box without destroying the formations. As a result, he could only surround the viewing box's exterior. He would discover them as soon as they came out. At this moment, a slight ripple of space was emitted from the viewing box, which immediately caused Jian Chen's expression to change slightly. Oh no, they're leaving through a teleportation formation disc, Jian Chen thought. The people from the Blood Blade sect are only gods at most, so the teleportation formation disc they possess can't be too powerful. Naturally, they won't be able to travel too far, Jian Chen thought. He leapt up and shot out of his viewing box as a blur, leaving the auction center. The Lightning Brothers just happened to see Jian Chen leave. They naturally took it as him fearing them, so he wanted to flee with the soul-drawing lotus. Without any hesitation, the Lightning Brothers pursued him as quickly as possible. Before long, Shiyu and Mo Yen arrived at Jian Chen's viewing box. Just as they had expected, they failed to find Jian Chen. On the streets of the royal capital, Jian Chen worked out the position of the divine kingdom of scarlet clouds before immediately rushing off. At the same time, he completely expanded the senses of his soul, hoping to find traces of the Blood Blade sect. However, the royal capital was covered with formations, which restricted Jian Chen's range. He was only able to cover several hundred kilometers. I have to leave the vicinity of the royal capital to find the people from the Blood Blade sect. Jian Chen strode through the streets. The ground seemed to shrink below him, allowing him to traverse several thousand meters with each step. He moved faster and faster. Behind him were the Lightning Brothers. Sparks flickered around them. They had already used a secret technique, and they currently pursued Jian Chen at full speed. Of course, this was not their true full speed. It was just that they were in the royal capital, so whether it was the four brothers or Jian Chen, they all had to follow the rules of the royal capital, which forbid flying. Otherwise, they would have been able to move even faster. This person sure is fast. We actually almost can't catch up to him. Looks like he has comprehended the laws of wind, or he knows a battle skill that increases his speed. The Lightning Brothers communicated with each other. Even though Jian Chen grew further and further away, they did not give up and continued to closely pursue him. We're unable to use our full speed in the royal capital. Once we leave the royal capital, catching up to him with our speed won't be difficult, one of them growled. That's right. He can't escape once he leaves the royal capital. Before long, Jian Chen left the royal capital. He sat on the ground and shut his eyes. The senses of his soul expanded out in all directions. In just a single instance, it covered a range of 10 million kilometers, and the range constantly increased. There's no sign of the Blood Blade sect within 10 million kilometers. Jian Chen continued to expand the senses of his soul. None in 20 million kilometers. None in 30 million kilometers. None in 40 million kilometers. When Jian Chen's senses of the soul expanded to 50 million kilometers, he finally found the whereabouts of the people from the Blood Blade sect. At that moment, the four elders from the Blood Blade sect were not in a good situation. As a matter of fact, it was completely horrible. The four of them were trapped in a single killing formation together. At the same time, four streaks of lightning flickered behind Jian Chen. The Lightning Brothers had caught up and surrounded Jian Chen. Sir, the soul-drawing Lotus is extremely important to us, so please hand it over. Otherwise, we can only cause you offense, one of the four brothers said emotionlessly with his fist clasped towards Jian Chen. Jian Chen receded his senses and slowly opened his eyes. He looked at the four of them calmly and said, "The soul-drawing Lotus is extremely important to me as well, so I cannot give it up. If that's the case, we can only cause you offense." The faces of the Lightning Brothers turned cold. Suddenly, a powerful presence erupted from them, and it swept towards Jian Chen. Sparks flickered on their bodies, and there seemed to be the vague sounds of thunder. "I don't have that much time to waste on you, but I have heard that the four of you know a combination attack that allows you to stand up to even over gods when you use it. I'll give you the chance to use it." Jian Chen withstood their presences easily and said calmly. "If you sir wants to witness our combination attack, then we'll help you fulfill that wish," the Lightning Brothers said sternly. Chapter 1845, The Threat of the Yang Family, 3. With that, the gazes of the Lightning Brothers sharpened as if sparks were flickering in their eyes. As they used their technique, they began to shine with endless blue light. Thunder of the four symbols, lightning strike. The Lightning Brothers yelled out at the same time. They used all their cultivation as late gods as their presence soared rapidly, instantly reaching its peak. At the same time, the vital energies of the four brothers seemed to fuse together. Their powers seemed to have truly fused together, allowing them to seemingly surpass the limits of gods and touch on the boundary of overgods. The difference between gods and overgods were as great as a chasm. Apart from an extremely limited number of prodigies, it was not something that regular people could overcome. The difference could be described as heaven and earth. However, the Lightning Brothers were able to use a secret technique to fuse their strength together perfectly, allowing them to erupt with the might of an overgod despite only being gods. Evidently, the four brothers were powerful. Boom! With a deafening sound, the lightning brothers fused together and shot towards Chen as a huge bolt of lightning. The lightning that they had transformed into was just too quick, having reached the speed level of overgods. However, the four of them had not comprehended the laws of overgods, so they were unable to completely integrate with the world around them. Consequently, as the bolt of lightning moved with extreme speed, it produced sonic booms with the air around it. You've just managed to reach the level of overgods. You four really are extraordinary. If it were a regular early overgod, you really might have the ability to fight them. Unfortunately, your opponent is me, Chen commented calmly. His slender body stood as still as a mountain. With a wave of his hand, a strand of sword chi was condensed from chaotic force, receiving the bolt of lightning that had a presence of destruction. Against the lightning brothers, Chen did not even need to use his laws of the sword. Just chaotic force was enough. This was because his laws of the sword had already reached late overgod, while his chaotic force was only equivalent to a god's cultivation. With a great boom, the lightning from the four brothers was dispersed by the sword chi. The four of them also emerged from the lightning. Pale-faced, they stumbled a few steps back. They stared at Chen in disbelief. Why, you're an overgod. The four brothers cried out at the same time. They felt extremely shocked inside. Only powerful experts among all overgods could fend off their combination attack with no effort at all. There were only around a dozen overgods in each divine kingdom. Every single one of them was famed, important figures who reigned over an entire region. These people rarely appeared in public. The four brothers had never expected their luck to be so horrible that they would come across an overgod. Even though we haven't seen all the overgods from the neighboring divine kingdoms, we've heard of them, but none of them are like you, sir. Have you come from an even more distant place? One of the four brothers asked in surprise and doubt. Chen did not answer the question. He stared at them calmly and asked, "Now, are you still confident that you can take the soul-drawing lotus from my hands?" The four brothers looked at each other. Their faces were filled with bitterness, as well as some sorrow. Suddenly, the four brothers seemed to think of the same thing. They bowed at Chen together and said, "Senior, the soul-drawing lotus is just too important to us. We need it to save the Grand Elder's life. If we don't use it, our Grand Elder probably won't even be able to survive for another century. As a result, we hope Senior can give up on the lotus. If we save the Grand Elder, we will return Senior's kindness one day. Why is it the four of you and not the Thunder family who will be returning the favor?" Chen asked. The four brothers hesitated before one of them replied, "You do not know, Senior. Our Grand Elder's soul was heavily injured, and even his vitality was affected. Even if he recovers, it'll be very difficult for him to become an overgod in this lifetime, so his status in the clan is nowhere near as great as it was in the past. The ancestor has not placed any importance on him, or we wouldn't have lost the bidding war for the soul-drawing lotus. Our Thunder family does not lack divine crystals. But don't worry, Senior. The four of us may be nothing compared to Senior right now, but when we break through to overgod together in the future, we believe that we would have the power to return the favor." The Lightning Brothers stared at Chen eagerly. They had said everything that they could, so they only hoped that the overgod before them would be moved by their words and would hand over the soul-drawing lotus. A gleam of light flashed through Chen's eyes. After a moment of thought, he sighed gently, "There would be nothing wrong with me giving you the lotus if I didn't need it. Unfortunately, I need it to save a friend of mine, so I can't give it to you." "Senior," the Lightning Brothers began to panic. Just when they wanted to say something else, Chen raised his hand to stop them. Chen continued, "But you don't have to worry too much. Hasn't your Grand Elder got another 100 years? I'll visit your Thunder family in that time and see whether there's some other way I can save him." The Lightning Brothers hesitated. They naturally did not doubt Chen's words about visiting the Thunder family in the future. Even if the Thunder family was a dragon's lair, they would welcome friendly overgods extremely warmly, and they would love to befriend them. What they doubted was whether Jian Chen actually had some other way to save the Grand Elder. After all, injuries to the soul could not be healed that easily. Then we will trouble Senior. The four of us will wait for you to visit the Thunder family. After just a moment of hesitation, the Lightning brothers clasped their hands. They understood that they could not take the soul-drawing Lotus away, so they could only accept his offer for now and keep hoping. Jian Chen nodded. Without any more delay, he chased after the people from the Blood Blade sect. Currently, Shiyu and Mo Yen were making their way through the streets of the royal capital leisurely with their veils on. They seemed to be downtrodden. Sister Shiyu, where do you think Patriarch Jian Chen has gone? So much for us looking for him and so much excitement with the pyrogold. We just wanted to give it to him as soon as possible, yet he has already left the auction center silently. Mo Yen puffed up her cheeks and said unhappily. Clearly, she was annoyed. If I've guessed correctly, the Patriarch should be pursuing the people from the Blood Blade sect. Mo Yen, let's wait in the royal capital for the Patriarch. I believe he'll return very quickly given his power, Shiyu said to Mo Yen. For some reason, she felt slightly depressed when she learned that Jian Chen had left the auction center silently. At this moment, a gleam of light flashed through Shiyu's eyes, and she glared ahead. A few figures flickered at the end of the street. They approached the two of them rapidly. They moved very fast as if they were hovering above the ground. It was to the point that many people missed them completely. They shot through the crowd. Oh no! Shiyu thought to herself. Before she could do anything else, the group that shot over had already surrounded her and Mo Yen. There were a total of 6 people. They were all very powerful, as they were all gods. In particular, 2 of them even made Shiyu become extremely stern, as they were late gods. Hehe, you must be Elder Shiyu of the Tian Yuan clan. I am the Patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Aoran. Greetings, Elder Shiyu. One of the middle-aged men clasped his fist towards Shiyu with a smile. He spoke politely. Patriarch of the Yang family, what are your intentions? Shiyu growled. She could sense that the situation was bad when she glanced at the 6 gods who surrounded Mo Yen and her. The Yang family invites Elder Shiyu to visit. I hope that Elder Shiyu does not turn down the offer, Yang Aoran smiled. Chapter 1846, Yang Kai appears, Patriarch Yang. I can only say that you've come at the worst time possible. I'm currently going to meet my Patriarch to hand over the supreme quality material I purchased to him. As a result, I am unable to visit your Yang family right now. However, I will tell the Patriarch about Patriarch Yang's great invitation. I believe we will be visiting the Yang family soon, Shiyu said while appearing to be composed. She looked around and stressed the 2 words, great invitation. Yang Aoran's face suddenly changed when he heard Shiyu mention that she was just about to meet up with the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He became extremely stern and asked, Elder Shiyu, from what you said, is your Patriarch present as well? He had not just invited Shiyu to the Yang family for her to visit. If the Patriarch happened to be present, things would become difficult. That's right. Our Patriarch is in the royal capital, said Shiyu. Your Patriarch is in the royal capital? Hehe, Elder Shiyu, do you really think we're so easy to trick? Yang Aoran's brother, Yang Lianxin, sneered. You must be Senior Yang Lianxin. Senior, I really do not understand how I would ever benefit from tricking you all, Shiyu replied with composure. However, she began to worry slightly inside. She hoped that Jian Chen could come back sooner. Although she had no idea why the Yang family had invited her to visit, she could tell with a single glance that it definitely was not for any positive reasons from their behavior. Yang Aoran said nothing. The light in his eyes flickered as he analyzed the truth of Shiyu's words. If the Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan really was in the royal capital, he truly could not do things forcefully. Jian Chen is not in the royal capital. Take the 2 of them to the clan immediately. At this moment, Yang Kai's voice boomed through the heads of the 6 gods from the Yang family. Yang Aoran and the others all became confident after they heard their ancestor's message. Yang Aoran began to smile warmly once again. However, the smile just seemed slightly cold. He said, Elder Shiyu, our ancestor has something important that he wants to see you about. It won't take too much of your time, Elder Shiyu. You can meet up with your patriarch after meeting the ancestor. Yang Aoran turned to his side slightly and made a gesture of invitation as he spoke. All of you, get out of the way. We don't care if your ancestor is looking for us for something. If we say no, are you going to use force against our Tian Yuan clan? Mo Yen was angry. She planted her hands on her hips and said loudly, causing all the passers-by to look over. However, none of them dared to say anything. There were barely any people who did not know about the Yang family, and there were few people who dared to offend the Yang family. Shiyu pulled Mo Yan's sleeve to tell her not to say anything more. Then she clasped her fist and said, Patriarch, please tell Senior Yang Kai that I'm only an elder of the Tian Yuan clan. I can't make any decisions for important matters. Once we meet up with the Patriarch, we will visit the Yang family. A gleam of light flickered through Yang Aoran's eyes, and he said, to us, completing the ancestor's mission is of utmost priority. The ancestor has already given us the orders, but Miss Shiyu still wants the ancestor to wait. It really is inconvenient, so please come with us, Miss Shiyu. With that, a powerful pressure emanated from Yang Aoran. It directly enveloped Shiyu and Mo Yen like a mountain crushing down on them. At the same time, Yang Lianxin and the 4 mid-god elders all produced powerful pressures as well. At that moment, these 6 gods had fully unleashed their presences, targeting Shiyu and Mo Yen. Shiyu's face changed suddenly. Although her progress with cultivation had been ungodly during these past few years, she was still only a mid-god. Faced against 4 elders of the same strength and 2 late gods, she was naturally not their opponent. She was suppressed to the point where she could only use 70% of her strength. Spurt. Mo Yan's face directly became sheet white as blood sprayed from her mouth. She had become heavily injured from the tremendous pressure. If the 6 gods had not targeted Shiyu, just the pressure alone was probably enough to claim half of Mo Yan's life, or maybe even all of it. After all, how was Mo Yen supposed to endure the pressure of 6 gods as a mere Saint Emperor? Sister Yenner. Shiyu cried out and immediately protected her. She stared at the people from the Yang family with intense hatred and called out, You've actually hurt Mo Yen. Do you know just how much the Patriarch adores Mo Yen? If anything happens to Sister Mo Yen, the Patriarch will never let you off the hook. Yang Aoran continued regardless of her words, Even if that's the case, I still wish to invite Elder Shiyu to come to our Yang family as a guest. Once we end up falling out and fighting here, that girl is so weak, so it'll be your responsibility if she dies in an accident. Shiyu pointed at Yang Aoran. She was so furious that her body trembled. Alright, I'll go with you. I'd like to see just what the Yang family has planned. In the end, Shiyu still abided. If they really started fighting, she would struggle to protect Shiyu, let alone the fact that she was not their opponent at all. Even Origin Realm experts would become heavily injured or directly die from the shockwaves of battles between gods, let alone Mo Yen, who had not even reached the Origin Realm. Although the royal capital had rules that forbid fighting, these rules only affected regular people. Over-gods were naturally not subject to the punishments with their status. Even though Shiyu and Mo Yen had basically been forced to go to the Yang family, the treatment they received was still very great. After entering the Yang family, Shiyu was invited into the guest room by Yang Aoran as an esteemed guest. Please do not blame me for the horrible approach, Elder Shiyu. We had no choice because we had to complete the ancestor's mission. Here is a healing pill, which should be enough for this lady to make a full recovery. In the guest room, Yang Aoran apologized to the 2 women. At the same time, he took out a jade bottle and passed it into Mo Yan's hands personally. He behaved like he was extremely sincere. This was because he too understood that if it were not for the fact that the pyrogold was simply too important to the ancestor would not want to offend the Tian Yuan clan either. Who would take your shitty pills? Mo Yen did not accept the offer at all. She directly smashed the bottle onto the ground, and it immediately shattered. A round pill rolled out and produced a heavy fragrance. The pill really was of a high grade. Young Aoran did not mind at all. He knew Mo Yan's identity. She was only the daughter of the patriarch of the Mo clan. She was not anyone important. He had only gifted the pill to her because of the Tian Yuan clan. Aoran, leave for now. Suddenly, a voice rang out in the guest room. A middle-aged man with a resolute face had entered the room at some time. He did not give off any presence at all, making him seem like an ordinary person. He had arrived silently like a ghost. Even young Aoran and Shiyu had failed to notice him. Young Aoran immediately became courteous when he saw the middle-aged man. He bowed towards him before leaving politely. The middle-aged man looked at Shiyu and nodded in satisfaction. Shiyu, I've heard of you in the past. You've become a god at such a young age, which really does make me feel that the old will be surpassed by the young. Becoming an overgod will be nothing difficult for you if you are given some time. I even envy Jian Chen slightly now. He has just founded the Tian Yuan clan, and he already possesses such an extraordinary expert. It's just a pity that my Yang family doesn't possess a great clansman like you. Sir, you must be the ancestor of the Yang family, Senior Yang Kai. Shiyu stood up and clasped her fist at him. However, she did not show any politeness on her face at all. You're right. I'm Yang Kai, the middle-aged man smiled faintly. Senior Yang Kai sent several gods, and even the patriarch of the Yang family personally came. I don't think it's as simple as inviting the two of us to your clan as guests since you sent so many people, Shiyu said. She could not think of why Yang Kai would do something like this no matter what. There did not seem to be anything valuable on her. The only thing that had some value was the pyrogold, but with the Yang family's wealth, they could have just bid during the auction if they really did require it. I'll be honest. I've invited you here as a guest only because I want to make a deal with you. Yang Kai sat down before Shiyu, which made him seem very approachable. However, Shiyu could clearly sense that Yang Kai still possessed a natural, irremovable sense of condescension even though he tried to appear approachable. In particular, his gaze towards her was like he was looking at an ant. A deal? But I don't have anything valuable on me. I am very confused. May I ask just what has caught Senior Yang Kai's eyes? Shiyu felt more and more doubtful. The pyrogold. Yang Kai said. Shiyu's face changed when she heard that. She gripped her space ring instinctively and stared at Yang Kai in complete caution. She said, Senior Yang Kai, I may have to disappoint you. The pyrogold is extremely important to the patriarch as well, so without his permission, I cannot make any decisions about it by myself. Yang Kai seemed to be expecting Shiyu to say something like that. He responded calmly, the pyrogold is extremely important to me as well. I need it desperately. It's just a pity that I learned of it a little too late, or I would have never missed it. Since Senior Yang needs the pyrogold, I can talk to my patriarch about it, said Shiyu. Yang Kai shook his head, you were the one who spent the divine crystals to buy it, and the pyrogold just happens to be on you as well. I can just negotiate with you. Is there any need to find Jian Chen? As long as the pyrogold hasn't ended up in his hands, it doesn't belong to him. Yang Kai took out a space ring and said, you spent 100,000 high-grade divine crystals to buy the pyrogold. I have 200,000 high-grade divine crystals here to buy it from you. Chapter 1847. Extremely shameless. Yang Kai's nonchalant tone was also forceful, as if Shiyu would never make it out of the guest room if she did not want to sell the pyrogold. Moreover, as he spoke, the space ring with 200,000 high-grade divine crystals slowly floated over before Shiyu under an invisible force. Shiyu and Mo Yan had both become completely pale as their bodies trembled. Clearly, the ancestor of the Yang family wanted to buy it from them forcefully. Moreover, he was extremely shameless as well. Indeed, they had bought the pyrogold from the Imperial United Merchants Association for the low price of 100,000 high-grade divine crystals, but that was because they had used the prestige of the Tian Yuan clan. They had even mentioned Jian Chen's name to deter other buyers, so they would pull out for the Tian Yuan clan and not take part in the bidding. Otherwise, the price of the pyrogold would have never just been that. It would have gone for 500,000 high-grade divine crystals at the very least. If there was a fierce struggle, it would have even been possible for the pyrogold to go for 1,000,000 high-grade divine crystals. Yet now, not only did Yang Kai, the ancestor of the Yang family, want to forcefully buy it from them, but he had even offered such a low price as well. He was simply completely shameless. Senior Yang, you're a famed expert of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, someone who holds great prestige. Aren't you going too far by abusing the two of us? Shiyu said hoarsely. Her complexion was extremely ugly. You have no sense of shame as well to take advantage of us. So much for being an overgod. I never thought you'd be so shameless. Sister Shiyu, we bought the pyrogold for Patriarch Jian Chen. We can't give it to him no matter what, Mo Yen said furiously with a sheet-white face. A cold light flickered through Yang Kai's eyes. He glanced at Mo Yen. His glance was cold and merciless, and it also possessed a glint that was as sharp as swords. Mo Yen immediately felt like her head was exploding from Yang Kai's glance. It made her head throb as if her soul was about to shatter. Her body shuddered uncontrollably, and she directly fell out of the chair and landed onto the ground powerlessly. She constantly vomited blood. Yang Kai's glance had heavily injured Mo Yen. After all, Mo Yen was just too weak. In Yang Kai's eyes, she was even less significant than an ant. Sister Mo Yen. Shiyu's face changed drastically as she cried out. She hurried to help Mo Yen off the floor and fed her a healing pill as quickly as she could. She stared at Yang Kai in complete hatred and roared, Senior Yang, do you know just how important Sister Mo Yen is to the Patriarch? The Patriarch will never let this matter be now that you've hurt her. Do you really want to declare war on the Tian Yuan clan? Declare war on the Tian Yuan clan? Yang Kai seemed to take it as a joke. He said leisurely, her previous words are already a crime worthy of death. If it were not for Jian Chen, do you think this little girl would still be alive? As for the Tian Yuan clan, a sliver of disdain appeared in Yang Kai's eyes. He said, apart from Jian Chen, there really is nothing about the Tian Yuan clan that catches my eyes. Moreover, it's impossible for Jian Chen to declare war on my Yang family over a mere Saint Emperor because the Tian Yuan clan cannot endure a loss like that. Yang Kai, I will remember what you have said today. Our Tian Yuan clan will never let this matter just end like this. Shiyu directly referred to Yang Kai by his name as she gritted her teeth. Her heart throbbed as she looked at the pale-faced Mo Yen who had a bloody chest. Tell me that once you become an overgod. Shiyu, accept the 200,000 high-grade divine crystals. Hand over the pyrogold, Yang Kai said calmly. He really did not treat Shiyu as anything significant. Shiyu said coldly, I will never. Suddenly, she stopped talking. Her eyes also widened at that moment as fury and intense regret filled her eyes. At that moment, Shiyu discovered that her body had become trapped by a mysterious power. She had become completely immobilized. Since you won't hand it over yourself, I can only take it for myself then, Yang Kai said nonchalantly. He extended his hand and directly removed the space ring from Shiyu's finger. After rummaging through its contents, he removed the pyrogold before putting the space ring back onto Shiyu's finger. Throughout the entire process, Shiyu remained trapped by the mysterious power. She could only watch Yang Kai take away the pyrogold. You're not making a loss either by selling the pyrogold for 200,000 high-grade divine crystals. Yang Kai finally smiled slightly when he held the pyrogold. He removed the restrictions on Shiyu and said, the deal between us is complete now. Go. Shiyu knew that no matter what she said, it was useless now that the entire matter had turned out like this. She was unable to change anything. All she could do was support Mo Yen as she left the Yang family in horrible spirits. After the two of them departed, the patriarch of the Yang family arrived by Yang Kai's side. He asked politely, Ancestor, have we offended the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan with what we've done? Yang Kai said, "It's only a deal between Yu and me." She definitely did not use the wealth of the Tianyuan clan to buy the pyrogold, so technically, the material is not Jian Chen's in the first place. I only purchased it from her before he could get his hands on it, so what can he do even if he learns about everything that had happened? After all, it's only a normal deal between Yu and me. Moreover, the pyrogold is only a supreme quality material for forging weapons. It's rather rare, but it's not unique in the saint's world. It's always possible to collect it in the future if he wants to. Jian Chen is not a stupid person. He won't fall out with me over a material for forging weapons. Of course, what I've said before are only secondary. The most important point is that I am in desperate need of the pyrogold. Powerful energy shook the surroundings of some desolate plains 50 million kilometers away from the royal capital. It caused the white clouds in the sky to be reduced to fragments. A powerful killing formation had been cast down on the ground. It erupted with all its might as deafening booms rang out from within the killing formation. The people trapped in the killing formation were the 4 gods from the Blood Blade sect. Currently, they were using everything they had inside the killing formation to attack the formation in an attempt to escape. Ha ha ha, just as I had expected. Zheng Fei, you really would use that teleportation disc. Fantastic. Now killing the lot of you will be a piece of cake, for men in azure robes sneered as they stared at the killing formation from the outside. Hua Yongyuan, it's actually you. Impossible, this is impossible. Even we don't know where we'll be transported to when we use the teleportation formation disc. How did you manage to ambush us at the location where we'd appear and cast down such a powerful killing formation? Have you done something to the teleportation formation disc? An elder of the Blood Blade sect cried out from within the killing formation. That's right. We tweaked the teleportation formation disc. It's just a pity that you've learned of this too late. You 4 are done for today. The man who had spoken before laughed out loud. Chapter 1848, A Deal. The sect has clear rules that we must not attack or kill other members of the sect. If this happens, the offending person will have their cultivation crippled before being sent into the blood flame blade formation as a sacrifice. Hua Yongyuan, do you not know the rules of the sect? An elder trapped in the killing formation yelled out. The elder from the Blood Blade sect known as Hua Yongyuan sneered, over half of the people from the discipline hall stand on our side. And after killing you lot, the position of sect master that will be determined again in a few months' time will definitely end up on our side. By then, whether it's the discipline hall or the sect master, they will all be from our side. Who will still be daring enough to stand forward and carry out the punishment at that time? As for the ancestor, he only cares about his secluded cultivation. These insignificant matters of the clan won't be enough to alert him. And most importantly, no one else is present apart from us, so even if we kill you here, no one will be here to witness it. Naturally, the sect will not learn about this. Hua Yongyuan smiled sinisterly. As long as he killed the 4 people before him, the balance between the 2 factions of the sect would be broken, and the position of sect master would definitely fall to his side. You're despicable, Hua Yongyuan. Despicable, I say. You'd actually go as far as killing members of the same sect just for the position of sect master, the elder trapped in the killing formation yelled out furiously. Hua Yongyuan laughed aloud and said to the 3 people beside him, Elders, let's do it. Push the killing formation to maximum capacity. The sooner we finish them off, the less we have to worry about accidents. The people by Hua Yongyuan's side were also elders of the Blood Blade sect. They all nodded in response. Soon afterwards, they arrived at the 4 corners of the killing formation. They used their own cultivation to control the killing formation, pushing the formation to its full power. Even though the formation had not reached the level of overgods, it was still able to erupt with terrifying power under the control of the 4 elders. Instantly, the killing formation began to glow brightly. It was as dazzling as a star. Terrifying pulses of energy churned within as killing intent surged towards the sky. The 4 elders trapped within endured with great difficulty. They unleashed all their power and used various secret techniques, battle skills, and defensive treasures to fend off the formation. However, they only managed to last for less than an hour before they became riddled with wounds and bloodied. They were all extremely heavily injured, and over a dozen defensive formation discs had been destroyed. Are the four of us really going to die here today? We're going to die at the hands of someone as despicable as Hua Yongyuan while the sect won't even know about it. I refuse, but what can we do? Our power is nowhere near enough to smash through the killing formation. We don't even know how much longer we can last. It's all my fault. I didn't properly check the teleportation formation disc we were given. I never thought that the formation disc would have been tampered with when I got it from the sect. The four elders trapped in the formation gritted their teeth. They were furious as they spoke. They were reluctant to die here. The four elders outside the formation all began to smile because they could see that Zhang Fei and the others in the formation could not last for much longer. However, the expressions of Hua Yongyuan and the three others changed at this moment. All four of them turned their heads towards the direction of the royal capital, and one of them growled, "Oh no, someone is coming. Quick, everyone, use your full strength. We have to kill them as soon as possible, or once someone sees this and reports it to the sect, it'll be quite troublesome." The four elders nodded sternly. They could sense a powerful presence rapidly approaching the area in the distance. Due to the unsightly nature of the matter, it was best if the person in the distance did not see it at all, even if they were just passing by. However, they had completely underestimated the person's speed. When they had sensed the presence at first, it originated from an extremely distant point. However, in the time they took to talk, which was less than 5 seconds, the owner of the presence had already appeared in view. All four of them saw an almost indistinguishable black speck on the horizon at the same time. It moved towards them at a shocking speed. Moreover, as the person drew nearer, his presence became more and more terrifying. It was like a tremendous ocean, crushing down on the surroundings. What speed? Oh no, that person is not a god. He's an over-god. The expressions of Hua Yongyuan and the others changed drastically. The over-god was actually heading in their direction, which made them panic. However, now that they had reached a crucial time to kill Zhang Fei and the others, they could not stop. To no surprise, the over-god who had shot over was Chen. Chen had been using the linear lightning release along the way, pushing his speed to the absolute maximum. Finally, he had crossed the 50 million kilometers and caught up with the elders of the Blood Blade sect. Chen paced through the air and arrived before the formation under the nervous gazes of Hua Yongyuan and the others. His eyes were like swords that were able to penetrate the formation and see what was going on inside. Elder Hua Yongyuan of the Blood Blade sect from the Divine Kingdom of Scarlet Clouds greets Senior. Senior, the four of us are currently eliminating traitors of the sect, so we are unable to greet you. Once we kill the traitors, we will receive you accordingly. I hope that Senior does not take offense, Hua Yongyuan said uneasily. He mentioned his identity as an elder of the Blood Blade sect as soon as possible, as he hoped that his sect's prestige could strike some fear into the over-god. This was because he felt extremely uneasy about how the over-god had just glanced at the formation as soon as he arrived. You're from the Blood Blade sect? Chen was quite surprised as he stared at Hua Yongyuan. Hua Yongyuan's face lit up. He said, I am indeed from the Blood Blade sect. Senior, do you happen to have connections with our sect? Chen ignored Hua Yongyuan and others. He looked at the killing formation and said directly, Is the Scarlet Gold ore from the Imperial United Merchants Association with you? Chen's voice directly penetrated the formation and Zhang Fei and the others clearly heard his words. The Scarlet Gold ore is indeed with us. May I ask who you are, Senior? An elder inside the killing formation asked. His voice was weak. Clearly, he had become powerless. Give me the Scarlet Gold ore, and I'll smash through this formation for you. Are you willing to accept this deal? Chen asked. He did not try to communicate discreetly through any communication technique. As a result, Hua Yongyuan and the others heard his words clearly. The expression of all the people in Hua Yongyuan's group changed. They began to panic. Senior, this is a matter of our blood blade sect. I hope that Senior won't interfere. If you need the scarlet gold ore, we'll offer it up to you gladly once we've killed them. Chapter 1849, Jian Chen's Fury. 1. Jian Chen ignored Hua Yongyuan. He stared at the killing formation and said, "Are you going to accept the deal or not? If you aren't, I'm not going to force it on you." Senior, the expressions of Hua Yongyuan and the other elders changed. If the formation really was destroyed, as long as just a single elder from Zheng Fei's group made it back to the sect, they would definitely suffer extremely severe punishments. As a matter of fact, their faction might even abandon them altogether. This was because the position of Patriarch was still not with their faction yet. Zheng Fei and the others beamed inside the killing formation. They agreed to Jian Chen's deal frantically. After receiving their reply, Jian Chen did not hesitate at all and grabbed at the air. A huge, resplendent strand of sword chi was condensed. It shot towards the killing formation as a streak of white light. The moment Jian Chen moved, Hua Yongyuan and the 4 others moved as well. Cold light flashed through their eyes, and they shot up from the ground at the same time. A huge, red blade appeared in their hands simultaneously. It was like the blade had been dyed with blood. Blade formation of the Blood Sun. Hua Yongyuan and the others bellowed out at the same time. Their blades shone with scorching red light as flames began to blaze. The 4 blood blades crisscrossed, and the scorching red light fused together. It turned into a huge, blood-red sun, radiating with terrifying heat. The 4 of them had gotten into formation in the shortest amount of time possible. They controlled the sun that they had created, engulfing Jian Chen with blade chi. They would never just watch Jian Chen smash through the formation and allow Zheng Fei and the others to escape. Even if Jian Chen was an over-god, they would still engage in a battle against him without any hesitation. They had suddenly struck out the moment Jian Chen tried to break the formation, delivering their most powerful attack. You overestimate yourselves. Jian Chen snorted coldly and pointed at the empty air. His action possessed the absolute might of an overgod. The most powerful attack from the formation created by the 4 elders could not even approach Jian Chen. It collapsed from Jian Chen's gesture. The blood-red sun collapsed, and it turned into flames that filled the sky, dyeing the surrounding scarlet. The terrifying heat scorched the ground. Spurt. The 4 elders vomited blood as they fell out of the flames in horrible conditions. They were pale-faced, and their gazes towards Jian Chen were filled with shock. He was definitely not an ordinary overgod. Even if an ordinary overgod could smash through their formation as easily as Jian Chen had, they would not have the spare strength to deal a heavy blow to them as well. You're nowhere near close to the Lightning Brothers, Jian Chen said emotionlessly. At the same time, Jian Chen's sword chi landed on the killing formation of Hua Yongyuan and the others. With a boom, the killing formation directly shattered and freed Zheng Fei and the other 3 from inside. Zheng Fei and the others stood there in their own blood. They stared at Jian Chen in complete shock. They had also realized that the person before them was an overgod. But soon afterwards, Zheng Fei returned to his senses. He took out the scarlet gold ore as soon as possible and presented it to Jian Chen politely. He said, "Senior, Hua Yongyuan and the others have violated the rules of the sect by attempting to murder other members of the sect. If it were not for Senior's help, we would have been doomed today. We hope that Senior can assist us." Zheng Fei asked Jian Chen for help. Although the formation had been destroyed, the 4 of them were heavily injured. They would probably struggle to escape from Hua Yongyuan's group. Jian Chen checked the scarlet gold ore before finally letting out a long sigh of relief. He put the rock away and said, "These are the internal affairs of your blood blade sect. I will not take part in it, but they're also injured now. Whether you want to run or fight will be up to you." With that, Jian Chen shot off into the sky and began making his way back to the royal capital. Run. Zheng Fei and the others made up their minds immediately. They fled as quickly as they could. They were more heavily wounded compared to Hua Yongyuan's group, and they were greatly exhausted by the killing formation. They could not put up a fight. Chase them. They can't make it back to the sect. Hua Yongyuan and the others immediately pursued. Jian Chen returned to the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. He did not stop along the way at all, and he directly arrived outside the auction center. After that, he expanded the senses of his soul in all directions. I've got the scarlet gold Oregon. There were 2 supreme quality materials that appeared in the auction this time that I require for forging the twin swords. All I need is the pyrogold that Shiyu purchased. Jian Chen began to expand the senses of his soul to search for Shiyu and Mo Yen from the auction center. He was overjoyed inside. Originally, he had only taken part in the auction for the soul-drawing Lotus. He had never thought that he would come across 2 materials for the twin swords, which was a great surprise for him. It was impossible for him to not become excited. I found them, Jian Chen smiled faintly. However, his face changed soon afterwards, and he began to frown. He had become uneasy. In the next moment, he had vanished into the streets as a blur. Shiyu supported Mo Yen. Both of them were sorrowful and dejected as they roamed the streets. Mo Yen had yet to recover from her wounds after ingesting the pill that Shiyu gave her, but her condition had been stabilized and no longer worsened. Sob, 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 Sister Shiyu. The pyrogold that Patriarch Jian Chen needs has been taken away by the over-god of the Yang family. What do you think we should do? The thing that we bought after so much trouble for Patriarch Jian Chen has been taken away just like that. Sob. They've gone overboard, they've gone overboard. Mo Yan's face was frighteningly pale. She sobbed painfully as her weakness was clear through her voice. She was extremely haggard. Shiyu's face was extremely sunken. Her eyes were terrifyingly cold. She said, "We can only wait for the Patriarch to get back, so he can make a decision about this matter. However, I will remember what has happened today. I will never let the Yang family go once I become an over-god." A white figure appeared at the end of the street after Shiyu had finished talking. He was clearly several thousand meters away from Shiyu and Mo Yen, but after he took a single step, he directly appeared before the 2 girls. He moved so quickly that it seemed like he had basically teleported. What happened? Mo Yen, you're injured. Who hurt you? Jian Chen stared at Mo Yen closely as he growled. His voice was filled with intense fury, and his gaze was even more terrifying. His eyes shone with shocking light that was filled with killing intent. Patriarch Jian Chen. Mo Yen burst into tears when she saw the person who had appeared before her. She clung onto Jian Chen tightly as tears poured down her cheeks. At this moment, T was as if she had released all the grievances that she had experienced, so she cried extremely painfully. Jian Chen held Mo Yen gently as he inspected her injuries carefully. His face darkened more and more, becoming more and more terrifying. He glared at Shiyu and snorted coldly, "Tell me, what happened? Who hurt Mo Yen?" The current Jian Chen was like an angered tiger. The cold killing intent he gave off made people shiver. He was extremely terrifying. Chapter 1850, Jian Chen's Fury, 2, Patriarch. It's the Yang family. Shiyu did not hide anything. She told him exactly what had happened. She spoke in great detail, and whenever she mentioned Yang Kai, she would grit her teeth in much anger. Yang Kai. Jian Chen murmured. Anger rose up within him as a powerful killing intent began to build up in his heart. Originally, the young master of the Yang family, Ong Tai, had provoked him time and time again, going overboard on some matters. Jian Chen was unwilling to become hostile with the Yang family when he considered how they belonged to the same divine kingdom. As a result, he only cut off Yang Tai's arm in the inn and left his life intact. However, he had never expected that just a few days later, Yang Kai, the ancestor of the Yang family and a mighty late over-god, would do such shameless things. Patriarch Jian Chen, Yang Kai has simply gone too far. The pyrogold was purchased by Sister Shiyu and me for you, but he stole it in the end. Sob sob, he has gone too far. He's using the fact that he's an overgod to bully me and Sister Shiyu just because we're not as strong as him. Patriarch Jian Chen, now that the pyrogold is gone, what do we do? What do we do? Sob sob sob, Mo Yen cried painfully. Her body trembled in Jian Chen's arms. She felt wronged. Coupled with the fact that she was too injured, her violent emotions had triggered her wounds. She vomited a mouthful of blood and dyed Jian Chen's robes red. Jian Chen removed a healing pill he had obtained from God King Duanmu's dwelling from his space ring with a sunken face and fed it to Mo Yen gently. He said, "Let's go to the Yang family. I'd like to see just how arrogant Yang Kai is." Jian Chen spoke icily. Anyone could sense the heavy killing intent in his words. This time, he had truly been angered. In other words, he was out to kill. Very soon, Shiyu and Mo Yen arrived before the Yang family again, this time with Jian Chen. Standing at the entrance, Jian Chen directly called out, "Yang Kai, get your ass out here." Jian Chen's voice was thunderous. It formed a visible sound wave that spread out in all directions, and it basically spread across half of the royal capital. Jian Chen condensed a resplendent sword chi in his hand as he said these words. It shone brightly as it shot forth, landing mercilessly on the main entrance of the Yang family. Boom! The huge estate of the Yang family shook violently with a deafening boom. Formations upon formations appeared and trembled, engulfing the entire clan. The estate was built by the Yang family themselves. Although the protective formations were not connected to the formations of the royal capital, they had still reached the level of overgods, so it completely withstood Jian Chen's attack. The boom also rang across almost half of the city. Everyone could clearly hear the disturbance generated by the surging energy ripples. The royal capital was no longer at peace. Countless people looked towards the Yang family as they discussed with great interest. In the commander's estate, Xian Dou's eyes narrowed as he was guiding Xian Rourou's cultivation. He suddenly turned his head towards where the Yang family was and frowned. He murmured, "Why is Jian Chen attacking the Yang family? Looking at how murderous he seems to possess deep hate for them. Grandfather, what is happening?" Xian Rourou also became surprised and doubtful. She looked in the Yang family's direction. She was not wearing her veil right now. She seemed very gentle and well-educated. She was just like the young lady of a large clan. However, her beauty was extraordinary as well, and it was enough to rival the moon. "Rourou, stay within the estate. I must pay a visit," Xian Dou said to Xian Rourou. His gaze was filled with adoration when he looked at her. At the same time, all the overgod clans in the royal capital began to pay attention to the Yang family. Even though the overgods did not visit the Yang family personally, they had all sent the senses of their soul over to pay close attention. The guards of the royal capital naturally discovered that a conflict was occurring at the Yang family. Someone wanted to fight in the royal capital, so they had broken its rules. However, none of them dared to act recklessly. They all continued their patrols like nothing was happening. They just went about doing what they were supposed to do. They would make detours around the territory of the Yang family purposefully. The entire Yang family was disturbed. Figures flickered inside, and in the blink of an eye, a large group of people had gathered at the entrance. All the elders were present, as well as many deities. The person at the very front was the patriarch of the Yang family, Yang Aoran. All of them were stern. "It's you. It's actually you. How dare you? You've actually come to our Yang family. Father, it was he who cut off my arm. He was the one who killed Elder Lu. You have to capture him. He can't escape." Yang Tai also ran over to see what was going on. He recognized Jian Chen with a single glance and leapt up in surprise, yelling as he pointed at Jian Chen. The only difference with him now was that he had recovered his severed arm. "Shut up." Yang Aoran snorted coldly as he glared at Yang Tai, forcefully shutting up Yang Tai before he could say anything more. Quite a few elders in the surroundings stared at Yang Tai like they were looking at an idiot. They all secretly cursed that Yang Tai was even more stupid than a pig. I was wondering who it was. Looks like it's Patriarch Jian Chen of the Tian Yuan clan. You sure are imposing, a confident voice rang out. Yang Kai made his way over in the air step by step. His face was quite ugly. Clearly, the situation had slightly surpassed his expectations. He had indeed purchased Jian Chen's pyrogold from Shiyu forcefully, but he believed that Jian Chen would only come to talk about it, so he would have many methods to handle the situation. He had never expected Jian Chen to show no respect for his authority at all, directly attacking his clan. He, Yang Kai, was a late over god after all. Who was willing to offend a late over god over a piece of pyrogold that was only worth a few 100,000 divine crystals? All the people in the Yang family were shocked when they heard that he was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Even Yang Tai became stunned. His face became filled with some confusion, as he found it rather difficult to believe. Very few people had seen the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan before. As a matter of fact, no one aside from Yang Kai and the Yang family would be able to recognize him. This was because Jian Chen had risen to fame too recently. Information regarding his appearance and characteristics had yet to spread completely, so they were naturally unable to identify Jian Chen. However, the name Jian Chen, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, had even spread to neighboring divine kingdoms, let alone the divine kingdom of Peng Tian. Everyone knew his name, and he had already become a well-known figure. No matter how imposing I am, I can never be as imposing as you, Yang Kai. You're a mighty overgod, yet you would go far as to do something as despicable as this, Jian Chen sneered. I'm despicable? Why do you say that, Jian Chen? If you don't give me a satisfactory reply today, I will not drop the matter of you offending the Yang family, Yang Kai said with a sunken face. You don't even want to own up to it? Let me ask you. Did you take my pyrogold? Jian Chen said sharply as he emanated with a threatening presence. Chapter 1851. Complete disrespect. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Jian Chen, the pyrogold was clearly Shiyu's. I only bought it from her, so since when did it become yours? Jian Chen sneered. He said icily, the pyrogold was one of the items I ordered the elders in the clan to collect. From the moment Shiyu purchased the pyrogold, it had become mine. Even if you wanted to buy it from Shiyu, you need my permission. And most importantly, did Shiyu ever agree to selling it to you? Patriarch, I said that the pyrogold belonged to you before, but Senior Yang just refused to listen. Instead, he forcefully took it from me. Is that any different from stealing? Shiyu gnashed her teeth from behind Jian Chen. Yang Kai's face immediately sank when Shiyu compared him to a thief. He glared at Shiyu, and a cold light flickered through his eyes. He said, you bought the pyrogold for 100,000 high-grade divine crystals, while I bought it from you for 200,000. Shiyu, did you accept the 200,000 divine crystals or not? If you did take it, how can you say I took it forcefully? Yang Kai stared at Jian Chen again, and he said furiously, Jian Chen, considering the fact that we're both overgods of the same divine kingdom, I don't want to become enemies with you, but do pay attention to what you say. If you want to spew lies, don't blame me for being impolite. For being impolite? Jian Chen sniggered. Killing intent shone in his eyes as he said coldly, Yang Kai, I should be the one who says that. If you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, don't blame me for being impolite towards you lot. The argument between the two of them grew more and more intense. It seemed like they were about to start fighting. Shiyu and Mo Yen became nervous. They were afraid that Jian Chen would not be Yang Kai's opponent when they began to fight. On the other hand, the people from the Yang family watched on eagerly. They wished to see the two overgods fight, as they had great confidence in their ancestor. After all, one of them was a late overgod who had made a name for himself many years ago. Although the other person grasped the laws of the sword, which possessed great offensive powers, he was only someone that had appeared recently. Brother Jian Chen, Brother Yang Kai, please calm down. With your statuses, it's just not worth it to get so angry over a mere piece of material. At this moment, Xian Dou arrived. He stood between the two of them. He had come to calm both of them down. Although he was not on any particular terms with the Yang family, both Jian Chen and Yang Kai were peak experts of the Divine Kingdom. They were both extremely important, where the Divine Kingdom of Ping Tian would suffer if anything happened to either one of them. As a result, he simply had to come and break up the fight when considering the greater good. However, both of them had been angered. Xian Dou's actions were clearly useless. Jian Chen accepted the space ring with the 200,000 high-grade divine crystals from Shiyu. He tossed it at Yang Kai coldly and said, "Elder Shiyu has said it already. She never agreed to the deal. You forcefully took the pyrogold away with your superior strength. Yang Kai, here are your 200,000 high-grade divine crystals. Hand over the pyrogold." Jian Chen spoke extremely forcefully, leaving no room for negotiation. He had revealed his determination to obtain the pyrogold. The space ring with the divine crystals crossed through the air in a perfectly parabolic curve towards Yang Kai. A gleam of light flashed through Yang Kai's eyes. He forcefully stopped the space ring before him, leaving it in the air with an invisible force. He took a step forwards, and his presence surged. He called out coldly, "The deal has been completed. It doesn't matter what you say. You can't just reverse it because you want to. Brother Yang Kai, brother Jian Chen, wouldn't it become a complete joke if the two of you began fighting over a piece of pyrogold that isn't worth that much with your statuses? Why don't you both just take a step back?" "Do it for me," said Xian Dou. Although he had no good impression of Yang Kai, he had to stop the two of them from fighting for the Divine Kingdom's sake. "Since Commander Xian has put it like that, I'll do it for him and take a step back," said Jian Chen. Yang Kai's complexion recovered when he heard that. He understood that Jian Chen was ready to come to terms when he heard those words. He could not help but become secretly complacent. It looked like the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan really was not bold enough to take him on in the end. However, Jian Chen's next words caused Yang Kai's face to freeze. "First, I can give you the pyrogold, but you must buy it for 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal," Jian Chen said nonchalantly. "What? 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal? Aren't you too greedy? You actually want us to pay 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal for a piece of pyrogold you bought for 100,000 high-grade divine crystals?" Before Yang Kai could say anything, Yang Aoran had already cried out. He was furious. A piece of divine crystal was the size of a thumb, a centimeter in width, length, and depth. A block of divine crystal, on the other hand, was a meter in width, length, and depth, so it was equivalent to 1 million divine crystals. 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal was equivalent to 20 million high-grade divine crystals. The eyes of everyone from the Yang family widened. He wanted to sell the pyrogold he had purchased for 100,000 high-grade divine crystals for 20 million. They all found it to be unbelievable. They doubted what they had just heard. Xian Dou was surprised as well. He smiled bitterly, as he felt very helpless about the situation. Yang Kai began to laugh from his anger. 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal. "Jian Chen, are you dreaming? And seeing that you said first, there must be something else. Why don't you tell us?" Jian Chen looked at Mo Yen, who stood behind him. Finally, a sliver of gentleness appeared in his cold eyes. However, his voice remained cold, and he said, "I have always treated Mo Yen as my younger sister, but she has been hurt by someone now. I will point my sword at whoever laid their hands on her." Towards the end, Jian Chen's gaze became extremely shocking. His eyes were murderous. However, he also felt extremely strange inside when he said that he treated Mo Yen as his younger sister, as Mo Yen was probably several hundred years, or even several thousand years older than him. Mo Yen also looked at Jian Chen. She stared at his back at a loss. Clearly, she was still struggling to accept that. "And I had thought I was Patriarch Jian Chen's savior. Since when did I become his younger sister?" Mo Yen wondered inside. However, she felt her heart warm up. Her patriarch, Jian Chen, was actually standing up to a late over-god because of her. Even many direct descendants from over-god clans would not be able to enjoy such treatment. Yang Kai laughed at the sky. He laughed wildly as his presence flooded the surroundings. His clothes fluttered despite the absence of wind. He was extremely furious. You'll point your sword at whoever harms your sister? Jian Chen, do you really think I fear you? I was the one who hurt your sister. I'd like to see what you'll do to me. Yang Kai laughed aloud as battle intent surged from him. Let alone 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystal, you won't even be getting a single block from here. As for you so-called sister, so what if I've harmed her? If it weren't for the God King who saved you from God King Duanmu's dwelling, do you really think I'd treat you with even the slightest bit of importance? Yang Kai glared at Jian Chen arrogantly. He really did not treat Jian Chen as someone important. Jian Chen did not argue back. He looked at Xian Dou and said, Commander Xian, please look after Mo Yen and Shiyu for me. Xian Dou sighed gently. Now that the situation had developed to this point, he knew that it was impossible to avoid a battle between Jian Chen and Yang Kai. He said, Brother Jian Chen, Brother Yang Kai, don't go too far. Xian Dou arrived before Mo Yen and Shiyu to protect the two of them. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.